Grand National Racing. But the Chevy of Darrell Waltrip won here at the 2-mile trioval at Michigan International Speedway last year, his 4th victory of the year. Another car we'll be watching today is the Dyguard Research and Development car. An R&D Chevy won the Firecracker 400 at Daytona in July. Today's experimental Pontiac will be driven by stock car veteran Dick Trickle in the Champion Sparkplug 400. The Michigan International Speedway, a 2-mile high bank trioval about 12 miles south of Jackson in the Irish Hills. Beautiful day here today as we have sunny skies, pleasant temperatures, and relatively low humidity. And we are high atop the press box here at Michigan International as we welcome you to the Grand National Champion Sparkplug 400. I'm Bob Jenkins along with Larry Newber. We're also about 80 miles west of Detroit, and the executives and the engineers from Detroit are here watching the various makes of cars in action. And we have an interesting variation up front, a Ford on the pole, a Chevy outside of row number 1, and a Pontiac starting 3rd.
They really picked the right place to kind of spread around the wealth. Not only are those 3 different brands up front, but the top 10 almost equally divided between the General Motors products and the Ford product. And this mix of brands has also created kind of an interesting hybrid that's also in today's field.
An interesting change of car has occurred within the past week. Let's go first of all to one of our reporters working the pit area today, the editor of Stock Car Racing, Dick Berggren, for the story on that. Dick?
Well, Bob, it says Buick Motorsports, but Bobby Allison's ride at Michigan today is a Ford Thunderbird. Now, Allison's got friends at Buick, factory loyalties to the Buick factory, and he sure would like to be running a Buick. But the question on his mind, as on everybody else's, is why is Elliott so fast? Elliott has won 4 times as many races, twice as many poles as everybody else. The question is it Elliott, his car, or Ford Thunderbird? What exactly is it? They're all going to be chasing the clear favorite today, Bill Elliott.
All right, the command to start engines has been given. Starting second in today's race, Jeff Bodine. He was so strong at Pocono in our last telecast, he crashed in the most recent Grand National race. At Talladega, he's looking for his first win this year.
Well, the question is, how many different drivers will end up holding pole positions in 1985? You know, it's been spread around between only 5 drivers. Now, Bodine has been close, but Elliott and Waltrip, who only has 4, by the way, Elliott I think has 8, have been the people who have dominated that category. But the big question is, how few drivers will be pole qualifiers in 85?
More on the Jeff Bodine injury. Let's go to Jack Arute. He'll also work the pit area for us today.
Well, there's a lot of concern with Jeff Bodine strapped to the wheel of the Levi Garrett car on the outside pole. He's run quick in practice, but his shoulder blade has been hurting him each and every time he's been inside the car. So much so that what they've done now is they've added a cool suit with cold water running through at a temperature of about 37 degrees all afternoon. Hopefully that will keep his shoulder immobilized and keep him well enough to go the distance for 400 miles. We won't know till the checkered flag has fallen. We'll keep you abreast on pit road. Let's go back upstairs now to Bob and Larry.
All right, thank you, Jack. It's a track that always leads to good competition, Larry.
There are Taj Mahals of racings around the country, and this is one of them. 30 to 40 official lead changes, commonplace.
The Champion Sparkplug 400 is being brought to you by the STP Corporation. On the world's racetracks and on the world's roads, depend on STP, your car care company. And by your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? Back in the Irish Hills of southern Michigan for the Champion Sparkplug 400. Temperature 78 degrees here this afternoon. Winds northeast at 5 to 15 miles an hour. Only a 10% chance of rain. Skies are sunny and the humidity 40%. Now here's a look at the starting lineup for today's race. On the pole from Dawsonville, Georgia, driving car number 9, the Coors Melling Ford, Bill Elliott. He qualified at 165.479, a new track record. Outside row number 1, Jeff Bodine in car number 5, the Levi Garrett Chevrolet. Second row, Tim Richmond from Ashland, Ohio in the old Milwaukee Pontiac number 27. Outside of row number 2, car 15, Ricky Rudd from Chesapeake, Virginia in the Motorcraft Camelot Motors Ford. In the third row, Darrell Waltrip from Franklin, Tennessee in the Budweiser Chevrolet. His teammate alongside, Neil Bonnet, car 12, and also the Budweiser Chevrolet. In the fourth row, car 77, Greg Sachs from Charlotte, North Carolina in the Miller American Dyguard Buick. Then Benny Parsons, car number 55, the Fast Fair Copenhagen Chevrolet. The 5th row, Cale Yarborough, car 28 in the Hardee's Ford. Outside of row number 5 from Spartanburg, South Carolina, David Pearson, car number 21, the Chattanooga Chew Ford. In the 6th row, car number 33, Harry Gant from Taylorsville, North Carolina, in the Kmart Skull Bandit Chevy. Outside the 6th row, Dale Earnhardt from Mooresville, North Carolina, in the Wrangler Chevrolet, car number 3. The 7th row, Mike Alexander in car number 95 and Kyle Petty in 7. The 8th row has Buddy Arrington in car number 67 and Bobby Hillen Jr. in number 8. Row number 9, Bobby Allison in 22 and Richard Petty in 43. The 10th row will be Dick Trickle in car number 10 and Terry Labonte, car 44. The 11th row, car 49, Trevor Boys and 66, Bill Parsons. The 12th row, Morgan Shepherd in car 00 and Ken Schrader in number 90. The 13th row, Lake Speed in 75 and Rusty Wallace in number 2. The 14th row, Dave Marcus in 71 and Buddy Baker in 88. 15th row, car 47, Ron Bouchard and 52, Jimmy Means. Row 16, car 23, Mike Waltrip and 41, Ronnie Thomas. The 17th row, J.D. McDuffie in car number 70 and Eddie Birchwale in car number 6. The 18th row, Joe Boer in car 65 and Bobby Gerhardt in 25. The 19th row, Clark Dwyer, car 64, Ken Reagan number 17. And in the final row, row number 20, Bobby Waywack in 74 and Rick Baldwin in car 04.
Bob, we talked about the lead changes that have taken place at this racetrack in the past, and boy, there has been some humdinger races. 65 official lead changes back in August of 81, 50 back in June of 74. And the other interesting sideline of that is only 7 last August. How will it be played this year?
40 cars are now in turn number 4, being led by the pace car. There's the first 2 rows. Bill Elliott on the pole in car number 9 and Jeff Bodine alongside. Tim Richmond starts 3rd, and in 4th starting position is Ricky Rudd. The pace car pulls down off of the track into the pit area. We anticipated green from Harold Kinder, the official NASCAR starter, as they come in front of the grandstand and the tri-oval. The green flag comes out and the Champion Spark Plug 400 is underway. It's a drag race down into turn number 1. Bodine and Elliott stay side by side as they go into corner number 1, but Bill Elliott grabs the lead in corner number 2. And as they come out of corner number 2 down the backstretch, Elliott will be the leader with Jeff Bodine falling into 2nd place and then Tim Richmond.
Well, Elliott opted for a slow start, and the thing to watch for if you're home watching now is the crew here at Michigan normally starts out about halfway up the racetrack around the corners, maybe a little bit on the bottom. See the cars down to a good 3 or 4 car width from the wall. After about only 15 or 20 laps, that groove will move up. So watch for that as the race unfolds.
The first lap is about to be completed. It's Elliott, followed by Jeff Bodine, then Richmond, then Rudd, then Waltrip, and then Neil Bonnet. Into turn number 1 again, Jeff Bodine makes a move to the inside of the racetrack as he tries to grab the lead from Bill Elliott. They go into corner number 2 almost side by side now. Bodine in number 5 on the inside, and Elliott in car number 9 on the outside. Ford against Chevrolet here down the backstretch at Michigan International. They're side by side. Bodine wants to go into the lead here, and as they go into turn number 3, Tim Richmond also makes it a 3-car race for the lead.
For the guy who's had a very intriguing season, and Bodine moving right up along Bill Elliott. They almost touched. I don't know that Elliott saw Waltrip coming on the high side. A little bit more about the Bodine season in a moment. This is a great race coming down after only just 2 laps. Bodine moves up into line right behind Waltrip. He doesn't want to lose that position and really chops off the guys running 3rd through 7th.
Well, Bill Elliott got squeezed by a couple of cars. Neil Bonnet was one of those, and it is Bill Elliott who has fallen back several positions now.
Oh, yeah, but it's early. I was about to say about Bodine, he's had an intriguing season, Bob. That car has been fast wherever they have run, but it just hasn't all fallen together for them to get a win. But they are an intriguing story, very fast and very interesting.
Well, here's the bumping that went on here in the tri-oval. Jeff Bodine almost out of shape. Bill Elliott had to dodge toward the inside and then got squeezed as Neil Bonnet and Ricky Rudd came together there right at the start-finish line.
Well, Bill and Richmond touched probably momentarily. Bill was getting out of the way of Bodine. He thought he had no, and somebody losing an engine right in that lead pack. It looks like it's
Tim Richmond. Richmond drives to the inside of the racetrack as smoke pours from that race car. And boy, he was lucky to keep that car under control. He was running right up there with the leaders, and that could have set off a tremendous accident. But fortunately, Tim Richmond got the car down to the inside of the racetrack, and everything is going to be okay. The yellow flag has come out, however, because of the blown engine on the Tim Richmond car. They race back to the starting line now. Darrell Waltrip is the leader. There's a good look at Tim Richmond, whose car exploded here on the main straightaway as they came in front of the grandstand. Down toward the yellow flag, however, it's going to be Darrell Waltrip, the leader. Neil Bonnet running second. Bodine is third. And then fourth is Greg Sachs in car number 77. We have a radio hookup with Tim Richmond. We'll try to see if we can make radio contact with him and find out what happened.
Tim, this is Larry Newber up on ESPN Control. Do you know exactly what happened, Tim?
Not really, Larry. Something let go in the bottom end of the thing. Excuse me, just before we went into turn one there, it let go, and luckily we kept her in one direction there. It didn't, the oil didn't get on the rear tire, so something in the motor let go. I can't tell you what it was, though.
A tremendous amount of smoke, even in the cockpit, as you came around turn number 2 and down the backstretch. Was vision a problem, Tim?
It wasn't really a problem at all, Larry. It was inside the cockpit. I could still see outside, though, and the main problem was just keeping the car straight going in. When it came out the bottom end, it tried to get the car loose on the rear tires, but luckily we made it. Unfortunately, we're going back behind the wall here, and probably won't be back out for the day.
Well, thanks a lot, Tim. A tough break, and you know, you've won a lot of races recently and a lot of different kinds of racetracks, so I know this is a major disappointment.
An interesting development here as Neil Bonnet comes into the pit area, and so does Bill Elliott. So the Junior Johnson crew goes to work on the left side of the Neil Bonnet car, changing tires, and they're also doing likewise on Bill Elliott. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Taking a look at Neil Bonnet's pit stop, they changed the right side tires. It was a left side tires. It was a left rear tire that had gone down, so it was a timely caution flag for him. Meanwhile, Bill Elliott was in and out very quickly as well.
And Elliott is still in the pit area right now as they're looking over that car to see if it sustained any damage. He came very close to making contact with Tim Richmond when Richmond's engine let go, and he also had an incident with Neil Bonnet and Ricky Rudd a little bit earlier. Back with more of the Champion Spark Plug 400 in just a moment.
I'm here to tell you all you get by ordering...
We are under yellow at the Michigan International Speedway early in the Champion Spark Plug 400. Tim Richmond's engine let go down in turn number 1, and Bill Elliott came in for a pit stop. Now, this is Elliott going to the inside of Richmond as Richmond's engine lets go.
Well, what you got to believe or got to know is that they're going well above 150 miles an hour right there at the end of the trioval here, or the deep portion of the racetrack. And oil is being coated not only on the racetrack, but also right on Bill Elliott's tires. He did do an excellent job of staying out of trouble.
More on this development with Dick Berggren in the pit area. Dick?
Well, Bobby took a lengthy pit stop here where the crew worked over the left front corner of the car. It appears to be just sheet metal damage. They've taped the left front headlight out. They've done some sheet metal work on it, and he's back on the racetrack again. And Jack Arute is right down in Ricky Rudd's pit at this time. Jack?
And Ricky Rudd has got some serious problems as they signaled 1 lap to go, and they'll be back under green. They've got to exchange a windshield. The parts that flew up off the car from Tim Richmond's expired engine smashed the windshield to smithereens directly in front of Rudd's field of vision. So they've got to make the replacement, try to accomplish that before they come out and show the green flag.
Well, the field right now is headed down the backstretch, and they will be getting the green in about a half a lap. Let's try to establish radio communication with Jeff Bodine.
Jeff, this is Larry Newber up on ESPN Control. How does the track look, Jeff?
Well, how about it? Like it always does. We're rough and pretty slippery right now, Larry.
Does all of the oil that was dropped down in turn number 1 appear to be taken care of, Jeff?
It'll be all right after a few laps.
A little bit of extra drama here before the race really gets underway, really.
And the field now beginning to pick up a little bit of speed. Darrell Waltrip is on the point with Bodine in second position. Pace car moves off of the racetrack, and we will go back to racing at lap number 8. Ricky Rudd is moving out of the pit area and is going to come close, but will not lose a lap in his windshield exchange. The green comes back out. Darrell Waltrip leads them down. Greg Sachs now in third place, followed by Dale Earnhardt running in fourth, and then the battle for fifth position, Cale Yarborough among the battlers for this spot.
Well, it's going to be beat to out there running all by himself. Here comes Bill Elliott moving to the field from the back of the pack, and look at him go. It's no matter where he starts, it seems like, no matter what racetrack, he has the ability to pick them up and lay them down.
Unbelievable speed out of that Ford as he moves to the inside of Rusty Wallace and now moves to the inside of Ken Reagan, trying to get back up front. Elliott went into the pit area a couple of laps ago because of some incidents out on the track early in the race, but now he's fighting, scratching, and clawing his way back up front.
Well, normally this is a sport of half miles an hour or quarter miles an hour. By the way, that smoke that you just saw coming up was not smoke. That's quick dry laid down from Timmy Richmond's expired engines. But Elliott seems to have the ability to just kind of devastate, disappoint, concern the rest of the field at an early point in the racetrack. He has the ability to go so fast than everybody else, and he's already caught up with the lead pack after having started behind them by about 20 cars.
Darrell Waltrip still continues to lead. Bodine second, then Greg Sachs in the Miller Buick. Then back of him, Earnhardt and Harry Gant and Cale Yarborough all battling for fourth position as Bill Elliott continues to move toward the front.
I'll make mention of Bobby Hillin Jr. is in that pack. Dick Trickle is also in that pack there. Some interesting faces, and by the way, some disappointment for a guy who's been one of the dominant figures here at the Michigan International Speedway since its opening. David Pearson has pulled behind the pit wall. No word yet as to whether or not it's terminal, but for Pearson, he loses laps every second he's in the pits, obviously.
Bobby Hillin racing here with Lake Speed and Ken Schrader. Hillin in that number 8 yellow car on the low side of the racetrack. And there you can see that Bill Elliott is about to pick off the experimental research and development car from Tigard Racing. It's being handled this afternoon by the stock car veteran Dick Trickle from Wisconsin Rapids, Wisconsin. Elliott moving to the inside of him. And there is Elliott now about to pass Ken Schrader as he approaches Bobby Hillin and Lake Speed. The lead continues to be held by Darrell Waltrip with Bodine second and Greg Sachs running third.
And just an update on the Ricky Rudd situation as we continue to monitor the progress of Bill Elliott toward the front. The field is closing in on Ricky Rudd. Another caution flag cannot come too soon for Ricky. That deficit of 5 or 6 football fields is now down to about 3 as the draft is really helping the pack of cars that runs right now about an 1/8 of a mile behind the Ford of Rudd.
There is the leader crossing the starting line, completing lap number 12. This is a 200-lap race around the 2-mile high bank trioval here in Michigan. The turns are banked at 18 degrees. 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th battling for position here. That is Harry Gant going to the high side of Cale Yarborough for 4th.
But the interesting man in that mix as we kind of zoom in on Gant taking over. Watch for that orange car just to the right of your screen. That is Morgan Shepherd. That's a sight we haven't seen all that often. There is Morgan right there, leading the pack, running in 5th position right now. Shepherd getting the better of Kyle Petty, Dale Earnhardt, and Terry Labonte, the champ right now. Shepherd in the Helen Ray car that hasn't run all that often on the NASCAR Grand National Trail, giving it a great ride.
You know, Terry Labonte, though, has made some good progress. He's battling right now among this group of cars 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. But Terry Labonte, the defending Winston Cup champion, started this race in 20th position. So in the first 13 laps of this race, Terry has also made very good progress. 3 wide now in corner number 1. Morgan is high. It is Dale Earnhardt smoking car number 3, dropping back just a little bit as Labonte gets underneath him.
I think what happened is that Morgan got just a little bit out of shape, and I think that Dale saw it before all the rest of it, and he may have been just a touch on the brakes. I think he was leaning on the outside rubber a little hard, and it looked like tire smoke to me.
Now Earnhardt beginning to move back up and join this fight for position as he is closing in on Morgan Shepherd and Terry Labonte. You can see how already the groove has moved much higher on the surface of the racetrack than it was earlier.
Morgan Shepherd has been in 6 different cars already this year as we go back a little further back into the field. Running about 15th position right here, and Bobby Allison and Benny Parsons are the ones who are heading up that group. Mike Alexander, by the way, is in the red number 95 that we've seen Sterling Marlin in earlier this year. Phil Parsons is also in there, as well as the king, Richard Petty.
10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th running together down the backstretch here in Michigan. And Bobby Allison is driving the Ford this weekend. He has decided that he's going to try this Ford, but apparently will go back to the Buick for the race after this.
Do you recognize that red and white car there, Bob?
Yeah, that happens to be Bill Elliott, who continues to march toward the front here in his pursuit and his attempt to win his 3rd race here at Michigan.
Boy, I'll tell you, either those guys are very, very thorough, which I kind of believe is the case, or there is some real trick that they have learned in 1985, and it really propels them to greater heights than ever imagined.
Elliott running the low side of the racetrack, so obviously that car is set up perfectly so that he can run both high and low as he passed a couple of cars on the low groove of the racetrack out there in corner number 1. He now goes to the inside of Mike Alexander in car number 95, who turned in an outstanding qualifying performance here earlier this weekend. Started in 13th position, qualifying at 162 miles an hour. Mike Alexander from Franklin, Tennessee.
Well, we're seeing it again, that low groove of Elliott. We've seen it at Talladega. We've seen it on a number of broadcasts that we have had. We've seen it at other racetracks. There is some speculation that it may be chassis and suspension that really gives this car its superiority. And I'll tell you, from a visual standpoint, looks like that may well be a possibility.
16 laps have been completed because of our early yellow involving Tim Richmond's blown engine. The average speed of the race, 112.50. The leader is Darrell Waltrip. More live from Michigan after these messages.
That high bank track. Better keep your eye on number 5, because he ain't looking back. That's Levi Garrett.
Darrell Waltrip in the Budweiser Chevrolet is the leader here at the Champion Spark Plug 400 at Michigan International Speedway, as ESPN's Auto Racing 85 is live today with another Grand National race. Now we go back and pick up 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, and 19th position. In 15th right now is Buddy Baker in car number 88, but right behind him is Ron Bouchard in number 47.
Bouchard may be coming on. He's had 3 top 10 finishes in a row. He finished 3rd at Talladega, the last race on the trail, 9th at Pocono, and 4th after a strong performance at Daytona. And at 3rd at Talladega, those of you who saw it, he was really in contention until the last lap. Neil Bonnet seemed to get a little bit out of shape, and it really cost both of them.
And we have a battle for second position as Kyle Petty has come along to challenge Jeff Bodine, and Petty moves to the inside, entering turn number 3 and takes over second position. Kyle Petty in another Ford has taken over second spot from Jeff Bodine, and there you can see the 4th place car of Harry Gant high on the racetrack. Darrell Waltrip continues to lead, but Kyle Petty has come along from the middle of the starting pack to move in as he started 14th, and he's now second.
Rather intriguing burst of speed, because he was running what seemed to be a comfortable 5th place about 2 laps ago, and all of a sudden, like he was shot from guns, here comes Kyle Petty. People keep saying, people keep telling us that one of these weeks this guy is going to come out of the box, he's going to dominate a race, he's going to win. Maybe it's going to be this one.
Kyle Petty likes this kind of racetrack also. High bank super speedways are his forte, and he's looking good here in the early stages of this one. But Jeff Bodine is also looking for a win on the Winston Cup Grand National Circuit for 1985. He's hanging in there in 3rd position. Kyle Petty is 7th in the point standings for the NASCAR Winston Cup competition. Of course, this car is the Wood Brothers Ford.
Kyle's best finish so far in 1985 has been a 2nd, and he got that at Talladega, supporting that theory that Bob just espoused about how well he seems to do on the super fast high bank racetracks. He's also been 3rd at Dover. That's a race, I must admit, that I kind of had a feeling he might win, because he was on a relatively hot streak. He went in there with a great deal of confidence, and he just had that 2nd place at Talladega. He came close at Dover, but it wasn't quite close enough just yet.
And we go back and pick up this battle in the pack. Bobby Allison, Terry Labonte, and there is Mike Alexander once again in car number 95. Alexander now going to the inside of Terry Labonte in corner number 3. Labonte with that car way up against the wall and losing the position to Mike Alexander, and also Phil Parsons gets around.
And Mike getting just a little bit out of shape coming around turn number 40. You know, he doesn't have quite the experience that a lot of these other veteran drivers have, but he's been very fast at a young age, and he's been very fast, certainly considering the lack of experience that he has compared to all the other drivers. Remember, a couple of years ago, he came out at Talladega, talk about fast racetracks, and Mike qualified well up into the top 5.
Mike Alexander, there is Ron Bouchard now, who is right behind Alexander and Dale Earnhardt. Bouchard moving to the inside of Earnhardt in corner number 3, setting the car into the 18 degrees of banking. The average qualifying speed here around 160 miles an hour, which means that they attain about 180 miles an hour at the fastest portion of the racetrack. Bouchard quite alongside Dale Earnhardt now as they cross the stripe and complete lap number 24. Jeff Bodine appears to be falling back. Harry Gant has moved into third position, and he is about to lose fourth to Cale Yarborough. Let's go to the pits once again.
Well, the problem with Jeff Bodine at this point is not physical. It's tires. The car is beginning to get very loose, and Harry Hyde says they'll have to make an adjustment on the next pit stop. But the key point to remember is if a car's loose, that means you're going to have to work that much harder inside the car, and that means that sooner or later the shoulder is going to begin to bother it.
That shoulder has been a very sore spot, shall we say, for Jeff Bodine, and he's been nursing it all weekend here. Hopes that he can go the distance without relief. But on these challenging bank turns, it could very well turn into that before the day is over.
Bob, the other thing that happens here at Michigan, the track is conducive to a lot of lead changes in the past, but also this place gets very slippery. All the drivers told us the last couple of days canvassing the pit area that that's one of the particular predicaments here at this racetrack that you have to be conscious of. It gets slippery, and the slipperier it is, just like Jack mentioned, the harder you have to work.
Cale Yarborough high on the racetrack in corner number 3 to try to take over fourth spot, but he cannot do it. Jeff Bodine hangs on to fourth. He's staving off the challenges right now of Cale Yarborough as 25 laps have been completed out of this 200-lap race.
By the way, 50 laps is pretty much the rule of thumb for the first pit stops. About 100 miles, remember, a 2-mile track. So 50 laps, anytime after lap 45, start anticipating the first round.
Now side-by-side battle down the backstretch between Cale Yarborough and Jeff Bodine. Yarborough inches ahead and moves into fourth spot. Bodine back to fifth now as those handling problems become more evident.
Remember Yarborough talked about David Pearson a little earlier being successful on this racetrack. Well, here has been the other hot shoe here at the Michigan International Speedway for the last 2.5 decades.
The lead is held by Darrell Waltrip. In second position is Kyle Petty. Third is Harry Gant. Fourth is Cale Yarborough. And fifth is Jeff Bodine. Back with more live from Michigan International Speedway. Bob Jenkins, Larry Newber, Dick Bergman, and Jack Arute back at Michigan International Speedway in the Champion Sparkplug 400. Darrell Waltrip is leading. He has led all but the first lap. That was led by Bill Elliott. Waltrip has led the rest of the way. We've completed 29 laps. Back in 10th position, there's a battle going on, and there they are. In 10th spot now is Ron Bouchard. Behind him is Bobby Allison. Then comes Dale Earnhardt and Phil Parsons.
Bobby Allison, that red and white car in the Ford-ick this week. That's Ford and Buick combined. It's kind of an unusual situation for Bobby to be in. Normally he comes to the racetrack, or at least in the middle of the season. You have the feeling he is completely prepared, and he has thrashed so long and so hard on this race car the last couple weeks to get it here at the racetrack to compete in. It's just not the normal position that Bobby is in. But obviously he has a great deal of savvy. He knows a lot about setting up a race car. The skin may be different on the contemporary modern race car, but underneath, and Dale Earnhardt showing a little bit of a side fender to Bobby Hillin and to Phil Parsons. But for Bobby Allison, because of all of his years of experience, what's underneath the majority of these race cars is pretty much the same.
Boy, Bobby Hillin and Dale Earnhardt are going at it tooth and nail back there. They've had a couple of incidents in which their bumpers have touched in the last half a lap. Now it is a battle for third position between Harry Gant at number 33 and Cale Yarborough in 28. Kyle Petty running ahead of these guys, as is Darrell Waltrip. Third, fourth, and fifth right here. It is Harry Gant, Cale Yarborough, and Jeff Bodine.
Mr. International Race of Champions champion, Harry Gant. He pulled off the surprise of surprises yesterday. Here comes Bodine. He may not be handling just perfect, but boy, you never know by looking at him on the racetrack. He goes way down in the bottom, and most of the drivers will tell you shouldn't be able to do that and go quick at this stage of the race, but just pulling it off. And look at him coming up behind Yarborough now. He says, okay, I'll try the high side. Bodine really showing the speed that maybe you wouldn't expect down in the bottom, but getting back to to the Gant story, he won the overall International Race of Champions yesterday by the slimmest of margins. He only won it because he led the most number of laps yesterday. He won the race. He tied with Darrell Waltrip for the most total points, but because he finished ahead of Darrell, he was crowned the champion.
And look who is sneaking into the picture all of a sudden. In sixth spot is Bill Elliott. He has come on from the back of the field after having made an early pit stop to check out the car and change tires on the left side. Elliott has moved back into sixth spot.
Bob, you got to say, after being 2 laps down at Talladega earlier this year and winning that race without the help of caution flags, this was a piece of cake.
He's making it look easy out there. Right behind him, running for position, battling for position, Neil Bonnet in number 12 and Greg Sachs in 77. Now, Sachs at one point was in third spot, but he too has dropped back just a little bit as he has lost the position now to Neil Bonnet.
Now, let's put Neil Bonnet's recent weeks of NASCAR racing into perspective. He has 2 second-place finishes in a row. This certainly is the mark of excellence, and it's not necessarily that you've been out-raced by somebody, although he's been beaten by Bill Elliott and Cale Yarborough, and those guys have been very fast, but oftentimes when you finish second, and when you start finishing second consistently, it's a little bit of luck. You're having just touches of bad luck here and there, and it keeps you out of the winner's circle. A yellow flag falls at the right time, or maybe one of the tires is just a little bit off, but you got the horsepower in the setup, but just little things keep you from winning.
Neil Bonnet running in 7th spot. Right behind him is Greg Sachs in car number 77. The leader is Neil Bonnet's teammate. There he is, Darrell Waltrip.
And I lost count. I don't think he has yet to catch Ricky Rudd.
He has not yet.
He has not yet. We were monitoring that situation, and the differential between Ricky and Darrell has really shrunk, and Ricky could either go for a caution flag or wish his lap 45 would hurry up, but he hasn't lost a lap yet. And Bob, David Pearson is coming back.
While we watch the action on the track, you're right. David Pearson has come out of the garage area and is back in the race. Well, Bill Elliott in car number 9 is running at about 156 miles an hour out there trying to catch the leader. We'll be back with more on ESPN's Auto Racing 85. 36 out of 200 laps completed here at Michigan. The top 5, Darrell Waltrip, Kyle Petty, Harry Gant, Cale Yarborough, and Jeff Bodine. 1 caution flag so far. That was because of an incident involving Tim Richmond. His engine let go. The average speed of the race is 138.73 miles an hour. There is Darrell Waltrip, the leader, as he flashes down the backstretch here at Michigan. In second position, and there is the interval between first and second, Kyle Petty. Randleman, North Carolina, in that Wood Brothers 711 Ford. More on the Kyle Petty situation. Let's go to the pit area. Here's Jack Arute.
Well, things are fairly quiet down in the 711 pit crew, but crew chief Leonard Wood has been keeping a watch on Kyle Petty. Has he been able to close on the number 11 Waltrip at all, Leonard?
He's closing just slightly, about 500 to the left, you know. But he seems to be in real good shape. Yesterday evening, I could tell he wasn't really satisfied with it. And we kept working on it, and right at the last, we finally hit what he wanted. So he seems to be doing real well right now.
One of the guys, though, the ace in the hole may be for this gentleman. His pit stops will be coming up shortly, and they're one of the fastest in the business. Let's go down to the other end of pit road now, and Dick Berggren, our colleague.
And I'm with Jeff Hammond, who's crew chief for Darrell Waltrip. Jeff, how do you see your speed in relation to Bill Elliott's speed?
Right now, Dick, according to what I'm seeing on my watches, it looks like he's about a 10th quicker a lap than we are. So he's definitely, gaining on the lead pack right now. So I don't know how hard Darrell's really running. I really don't know how hard Bill's running. So, but it does appear he's probably the quickest car on the racetrack at this time. So we'll have to wait to see what's going to happen early in the race.
That's Darrell Waltrip's crew chief.
Well, the statistics that we've been able to come up with here in the booth bear that out. We've clocked Bill Elliott at about 156.5 miles an hour and Waltrip about 155.8. So indeed, Bill Elliott is closing in on the leaders and the leader of the race, who is Darrell Waltrip.
Well, as always, the interesting question is, when you're up front, you obviously know your car is better than at least half of the other people in the field. And you can kind of control the situation from up there. Everybody can, to a certain degree, control their race. But when you're up front, when you've shown the ability to lead, and a relatively dominant lead in the early stages of a race like Waltrip has shown, you can truly take charge of your own destiny. He may be pulling off just a little bit because there are at least 3 pit stops to go through yet, given caution flags, maybe double that number. There are a lot of laps left, a lot of miles left to go in this race. And Waltrip is another cagey driver also who might be doing a little bit of experimenting. Is this car going to change as the day wears on, as the sun continues to beat down on the racetrack and it gets hotter? Is the setup the right one we have today? Where am I fast on this track? Where am I a little slower on this track? If I need to pass, do I go well here? So there probably are a lot of things going on in Darrell's mind.
Well, there are many ways that you can determine how a car is handling. Of course, one of the ways is to simply ask the driver and get from him whether he feels the car is pushing or is loose. But there is another way that you can determine how it's handling, and with that we go to an ESPN Track Fact.
The best way to measure how well a car is handling is to take its temperature. And in this case, it's the tire temperatures. Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company engineers measure the tire temperature of each tire after each practice. Now, what they're looking for is the tires and whether they're hotter or colder. They give each driver a sheet of paper like this, and if the right front tire is hotter than the right rear, then the car is pushing. Now, if the right rear is hotter than the right front, then it's loose.
This Track Fact has been brought to you by Levi Garrett Chewing Tobacco. Time after time, the quality comes through. The top 3 here in the Champion Spark Plug 400, Darrell Waltrip, Kyle Petty, and Harry Gant. We'll be back with more right after these messages. Michigan International, where Darrell Waltrip continues to lead this 400-mile Grand National race on this beautiful Sunday afternoon. The 5th place car now is Bill Elliott. He has taken over 5th in the last couple of laps and is 8 1/3 seconds behind the leader, Darrell Waltrip. Now, we are beginning to see pit stops made. Bobby Allison was the first to come in for a pit stop, and a couple of laps ago, Jeff Bodine also came in. We are 46 laps into the race, and we anticipated pit stops right around the 50-lap mark.
Yeah, laps 45 to 50, so it may have been a little early for those two guys, but could have been a couple of things. Possibility was strategy. In Allison's case, by the way, he came in on lap 42, so he went 84 miles. There's a possibility it's strategy. In the case of Bodine, you heard earlier that he wasn't completely happy with the setup. He wanted to take that opportunity to make the changes.
Here's Kyle Petty's pit stop in Jackaroo in the Wood Brothers pit.
Petty has brought the 711 Ford Thunderbird into the pits. The Wood brothers go to work on the right side of the tires. Leonard Wood making the exchange in the right front. In the back is young Eddie Wood trying to do the service there. They're working over very methodically. A very quick stop. He's off and away with a full tank of fuel, and he's back in the hunt.
Nice stop for Kyle Petty as he gets back out onto the banking now in turn number 1. And another car coming in for a pit stop is Eddie Birchwell, one of the rookie contenders on the Winston Cup Grand National Trail for 1985.
Now, if you figure it up, if you stop before lap 50 as Birchwell comes in for his routine stop, you got to go at least 50 laps to get this whole thing done in 3 pit stops. That's mathematically. But chances are everybody who comes in around lap 45, 46, 47, if they had to, they could probably go just a little farther with drafting. So these definitely are routine stops for everybody coming in now. And unless there's a caution flag, all things are just about equal as far as pit stops go.
Bill Elliott, Cale Yarborough, and Harry Gant are out there on the backstretch running together on the racetrack. This is 2nd, 3rd, and 4th position now. Kyle Petty made the pit stop, so this moves Gant into 2nd, then Yarborough, and right behind him is Bill Elliott. There's Gant running high on the racetrack in turn number 4, and there are his pursuers, Yarborough and Elliott.
Nice man, nice team. It's really a group of people that you like to be around at racing. Here's Dale Earnhardt. Bob, he's been curious to me today. You know, he has been wallowing for Dale Earnhardt back in about 20th position all race long. Now, this stop comes on lap number 48, so you figure that's what they plan to do.
And they're also changing rubber on both sides of that car. Now, Benny Parsons has also been in for a routine pit stop. They changed rubber only on the right side of that car. He's back out. There are Elliott is once again second, third, and fourth, entering turn number 3. These 3 guys should be coming in for a pit stop momentarily. Ron Bouchard brings the number 47 Valvoline Race Hill Farms Buick in for a stop.
Well, Earnhardt, going back to that for just a second as we watch Bouchard. Here comes Labonte and Cale Yarborough in. You saw all 4 tires get changed on Earnhardt.
Cale Yarborough stopping in his pit area. Here is Jack Arute.
And Cale Yarborough pulls his Hardy Sport Thunderbird in for pit work. Joey Knuckles on the right front making the exchange. On the back, Greg Wilson adjusting the chassis. Maybe 1, maybe 2 turns, trying to gather it back in. They're about ready, waiting to get full 22 gallons of fuel. He fires the engine and he's away. 17.9 seconds and a close call as he almost hit Bobby Gerhart.
That was a close call indeed. Gerhart was coming in as Yarborough was pulling out, and they missed by inches. Now here comes the leader, Darrell Waltrip, in for a stop. He'll be pulling into the Junior Johnson pit, and the crew goes to work. Let's get the call from Dick Berggren.
And it's going to be fresh tires on the right side for Darrell Waltrip. No adjustments on the chassis at all. They do have 2 cans of fuel ready to go in. They've been ready for him for about 7 or 8 laps now. There's a loose tire rolling behind the car. One of the 3 members of Earnhardt's car has got it, and off goes Waltrip in a fine pit stop.
And just a tick of the watch faster than the one turned in earlier.
Now, is that a statement of confidence or not? They didn't even touch the suspension and the chassis set up on that race car. Just change tires. We'll take these off, put some new ones on, just in case. But we're king of the hill so far today.
A little less than 15 seconds on the pit stop. Bill Elliott stays out on the racetrack, and so does Harry Gant. So now I believe Elliott would be shown as the leader at this point, since Waltrip has come in for his stop and Bill Elliott has not. Running with Elliott on the racetrack is Terry Labonte at number 44. He has been in for his first pit stop.
Now remember, Bill Elliott, he made that stop after the Tim Richmond incident on lap number 5. So this is routine. You expect Elliott maybe to go as much as 55 laps.
Harry Gant did not come in, so he is indeed getting some very good fuel mileage here. 106 miles is what we have gone so far, and Gant has not made a stop.
Well, Travis Carter. Here comes Harry in, by the way, this time. Travis Carter is pretty clever. We've seen this a number of times in the last couple of years. They've been able to milk as many miles per the gallon out of this car as any team along pit road.
Once again, Jack Arute for the call of the Harry Gant stop.
Well, Harry Gant brings his car to a stop. He resets the fuel flow meter from inside the cockpit. That may account for some of the quick work. Now, they've elected to change left side rubber on this car. The jack is still up. They're adding the full 22 gallons. They dropped the jack, and he's away in 12.9 seconds, gentlemen.
That's about 2 seconds faster than most of the other leaders turned in as far as their pits are concerned. Now, here is Bill Elliott out in turn number 3, running low on the racetrack. But remember, he has already been in for a pit stop. It was not a routine stop, but it was a stop early in the race when Tim Richmond had his engine blow, and they did fill the car up with fuel then. So naturally, he goes a little bit further.
Well, it's always interesting, of course, when everybody else is pitting under the green flag, just how much time can you make up when you're out on the racetrack? Elliott would like to see a caution right now, because if that happened, he could probably duck in the pits and get out and still hold on to the lead. But if he has to pit under green like everybody else, chances are he'll come out in about 3rd or 4th position.
54 laps completed. The average speed of the race has increased to 145.22 miles an hour. The race record here held by Darrell Waltrip at 153.863 miles an hour. That last year, and it was a race that was run without a yellow flag, and we've already had one of those today.
Well, something else as we continue to watch Bill Elliott orbit around that we'll check on for you was Ricky Rudd. Remember, he did not get lapped at speed under green before this pit stop. He has already made his pit stop, and after everybody completes their pit stop, including Mr. Elliott, then we'll get an idea as to whether or not Ricky was able to stay on the same lap with the leaders.
Well, the Elliott crew prepares for the pit stop, which should come now in just a few more laps. Bill has gone about 3 more longer than anybody else, and the Tim Richmond engine letting go occurred on about lap 3, I believe. So Bill Elliott should be coming in very shortly now.
I'm not going to get impressed until I see him go 70 laps.
That I doubt.
Yeah, I doubt that too.
He's in turn number 4, dropping down off of the banking and coming in. Here comes Bill Elliott, the leader of the race, in for his first routine pit stop. Here is Dick Berggren.
He's on his way down pit road. The crew is ready for him. Ernie Elliott holding the board. He says, stop right here. And Ernie's going to take a look at that left front while the crew goes to work on the right side of the car. No adjustments at all to the car, and apparently is working quite to Elliott's satisfaction. Right side tires, which has been the order of the day. Everybody so far that we have seen who's made a pit stop has changed the right side tires. 2 cans of fuel. Having a little bit of trouble here with the right front tire at this point. Now they've got it changed, and off they go.
21-second pit stop for Bill Elliott, so it was much slower than everybody else, but Bill will be trying to make it up out on the racetrack.
Well, Bob, while he was in the pits, Darrell Waltrip went by, so I think when all is said and done here, we're going to see that Waltrip continues to be the leader. And by the way, Waltrip is on the racetrack right now, just behind Ricky Rudd. So far, Ricky is held on by the hair on his chinny chin and stayed on the lead lap. But here comes the freight train, the number 11, Mr. Waltrip, trying to put 1 lap on Ricky.
Well, we're checking with scoring to find out who is the leader. They tell us that this guy, Neil Bonnet, is the leader of this race in car number 12. So 57 laps completed. The pit stops are over. Bonnet is the leader, and we'll be right back. Back at Michigan, and now Darrell Waltrip is back in the lead. Neil Bonnet had not made his official routine pit stop, and he has made that now, so Waltrip is back up front with Petty running second, Harry Gant is third, followed by Cale Yarborough, then Bill Elliott. Darrell Waltrip in the Junior Johnson prepared Budweiser Chevrolet has been dominant here in the early going of this race, except for about 1 lap, the first lap, which Bill Elliott led, and aside from the laps that he did not lead because of his pit stop, Darrell Waltrip has been very impressive.
And he's moving up, Bob, on approximately 10th to 20th. That's a pack of cars, probably about 1/8 of a mile in front of him. By the way, just to update you once again, see the other car to frame, that's Ricky Rudd, who just dropped off the right-hand side. Ricky is now officially a lap down after holding on for so many laps, for about 50 laps, as a matter of fact. And here comes Waltrip.
Darrell Waltrip high on the racetrack, clicking off another lap. That is lap number 60. Darrell is currently second in Winston Cup Grand National points. He has recorded 1 victory so far this year, and that was the World 600 at Charlotte. You can see the Junior Johnson crew has their heads together watching Darrell's performance out there at this moment.
Well, a couple of things. They thought that he may have been just a little bit off the pace of Kyle Petty. Maybe they made some adjustments, and Darrell's given them some feedback from the cockpit, and they're trying to do a figure in to see if they went the right way or not. Another thing is their teammate, Neil Bonnet, just went 106 miles on a load of fuel. Now, it's possible that they learned something on that car they can apply to this one. So those are a couple of possibilities.
Darrell Waltrip here in the Tri-Oval at Michigan International, continuing to lead. And the car that he is passing at this point is Ronnie Thomas in car number 41. Let's go down to the pit area and get this conversation with Junior Johnson. Jack?
Junior, your car seems to be running very well. On that last pit stop, it didn't look like you made any chassis adjustments.
Well, Jack, the car right now is handling really good, and we changed the tire stacker just a little. We didn't do any chassis adjustment on it, but the stacker we felt like it was off a little, so we adjusted that, and it does seem to happen.
You've really made an effort to be a lot more competitive at tracks like Michigan International Speedway. A lot of heavy testing this year. Do you think now that maybe you've got it together for the Chevrolet Brigade?
Well, we've been doing a lot of testing around the country. We've been here at Michigan, and we also been to Arlington. We're going to Bristol next week, and we seem to have had a little bit of problem with our chassis from here and there, so we're trying to get back on top of what's been going on, and see if we can, get back competitive. We've not been running as good as I'd like for us to.
Well, Darrell Waltrip is having a fine ride this afternoon. It looks like he set his sights on Ron Bouchard.
That's indeed the situation, Jack. Darrell Waltrip down on the low side of the racetrack, and Ron Bouchard is high. There's a group of cars running now beside or to the rear of Darrell Waltrip, and they are fighting for position. Waltrip now in the middle of Ron Bouchard on the low side of the racetrack, and Bobby Allison on the high side.
Staggered, by the way, which Junior Johnson mentioned during that interview, the difference in tire size from Normally tires on the outside, tires on the inside. Ron Bouchard take kindly to Mr. Waltrip putting the lap on him, did he? And Ron getting a little bit out of shape coming off of turn number 2 there. You saw the smoke. Bobby Allison goes by on the high side, and Waltrip pulled back. Here comes Ricky Rudd getting his lap back.
And now so is Bobby Hill, and perhaps Waltrip is in a little bit of a problem here.
Bob, I think he got out of the accelerator when he saw Bouchard getting a little bit out of shape. Rudd trying to take advantage of it. They're racing right now, just like we're in the last lap. Ricky Rudd trying to hold on to his lap desperately. Waltrip moving up. Waltrip knows the situation. He knows that Rudd is a formidable competitor, and he's going to work very hard to keep Ricky back.
Now Ricky falls right in on the back bumper of Darrell Waltrip and gets into his trap as they go into corner number 1 now. Now he drops to the inside of the racetrack. Ricky Rudd does in the number 15 Motorcraft Ford.
Well, that was close, and Ricky certainly gets high marks for trying. As long as he stays there, if that opportunity jumps up maybe a couple more times, maybe it'll work out.
Bobby Allison drops down a lap on the backstretch as Waltrip goes to the inside and puts Bobby down a lap. Allison experimenting with the Ford here this weekend.
Darrell Waltrip and Neil Bonnet as a tandem. They both won a race. They both have won a pole this year, so both of Junior Johnson's cars on all the meaningful list in terms of winner circles and for the Busch Clash for next year. So at this point, they're concentrating on points. And of course, Darrell is always a threat to be the champion.
15 Ricky Rudd and 22 Bobby Allison are running right together on the racetrack. As they go down the backstretch now, Ricky Rudd pulls just slightly ahead of Bobby Allison.
It's kind of interesting. Already there's beginning to be some talk about what's going to happen in terms of drivers for 1986, and it's ironic that those two would be on the track together because the 4 entities involved there, car and drivers, are among those who are part of the center of the discussion for driver changes for 1986.
66 laps completed now. The leader, Darrell Waltrip. Kyle Petty runs second, followed by Harry Gant, then Bill Elliott and Cale Yarborough. Back with more from Michigan International in a moment. There are the top 5. Darrell Waltrip, Kyle Petty, Harry Gant, Bill Elliott, and Cale Yarborough. Running in 6th position is Neil Bonnet. Then 7th is Jeff Bodine. In 8th position is Greg Sachs in number 77. And then in 9th spot is Morgan Shepherd. Ron Bouchard comes into the pit area, and Bill Elliott is right behind Ron Bouchard, and Elliott is making an unscheduled pit stop.
Bouchard coming in with damage on the right front. We saw him get a little bit out of shape but not touch anything a couple of laps ago. We saw nothing happen to Elliott. The car is up on jacks as far as the right side tires go. They're going to work on the outside of that machine. The starboard side, 2 change of tires, and off he goes. But Bill Elliott takes a big chance here. The way things have gone the last 3 races at MIS, caution flags have come few and far between.
Well, now Bill really has his work cut out for him. He has been in the pits 3 times this afternoon already in the first 69 laps of the race. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Well, the problems were very, very serious, as one would say, on the 47 of Ron Bouchard. The sheet metal had been bent in up against each tire, and that was the problem. They had to bang it back out after making a tire exchange, and the tires that came off the car, well, if you take a look at them, you can see where it's been rubbing up against the sheet metal. So that was the problem and why it was so lengthy for Ron Bouchard.
Ron Bouchard, though, back out there and getting up to speed as already he is passing a car, Ken Reagan, on the backstretch, and also the number 04 of Rick Baldwin. Now, Bill Elliott's stop was something that surprised us. They did change rubber on the right side of the car, perhaps just a bad set of tires for Bill, but he's been in 3 times now where everybody else, or most everybody else, has been in just once.
Yeah, just one word about tires also. On a racetrack like this, a super speedway, interliners are used, so in the event of a blowout or a puncture at high speed, at least got something to fall down on. So a little bit of detail about the tires. The interesting thing about Elliott, when you got all that extra speed, there are a lot of experimentations you can do. You can take maybe a little extra chances in terms of stopping during the season.
There's the leader, Darrell Waltrip. Running back in 8th position is Greg Sachs in car number 77. This is the Dygaard car, sponsored by Miller, the Buick. Now, Greg Sachs was at one time early in the race, up to as high as 3rd position. However, now he's back down to 8th. Let's go to Dick Berggren, who's in Greg's pit area.
And it was Robin Pemberton, who is Greg Sack's crew chief. Robin, you were running so much better earlier in the race. What's gone wrong that you're sliding back?
The car is pretty tight right now, tighter than we had anticipated. We're trying to correct the problem and hopefully not get a lap down before we can get the problem straightened out. But we have good hopes to finish fairly decent today.
One of the interesting stories here on the Sachs team is that despite the fact that this race he's running a Buick, they've got a Ford factory rep working here, a fellow who designs chassis for the Ford Motor Company, who enjoys working on race cars. And he's kind of helping the team out this weekend.
Sachs from upstate New York, a modified driver in the northeastern portion of the country who shocked the Grand National world when he walked away with a victory at the Firecracker 400 at Daytona International Raceway earlier this year in the experimental Dygaard car. And now running right ahead of him on the racetrack is this week's, actually right beside him now, this week's Dygaard experimental car, the number 10, driven by Dick Trickle.
By being tight, what Robin means is when they go into the corner, the car has a tendency to hunker down and grab right over the racetrack. That's good for traction, but what it does, it gives the driver the feeling like he's being slowed down, like he's being anchored down and going into the corner. And most of the top drivers like to run a little loose, so if they go into a corner hard, they can swing the car around a corner, lift that tail and slip out, maybe a couple of inches. It makes you feel like you're real close to dirt tracking, but going fast.
So there are the two Dygaard cars, the regular one, Sachs in 77, and the R&D Dygaard car, number 10, the car driven this week by Dick Trickle. That is the Pontiac.
Well, the emphasis this week, according to Gary Nelson, as far as the R&D car goes, that white car, is aerodynamics. And what they're looking for, even though this isn't a Ford, as Richard Petty comes in. Petty had been in on lap number 50, so this is earlier for him, too.
They're pulling the sheet metal away from the tires on the right side. Looks like Richard may have either scraped the wall or another car and bent the sheet metal in toward the tires.
Yeah, as flat as that is, I would suggest that is the wall, not another car. Richard likes to run high, but I don't think he means
Richard Petty goes back out onto the racetrack. As you mentioned, running high on this racetrack, right up against the retaining wall is where Richard Petty likes to be, and we talked to him about that.
Richard, this place looks like it's really conducive to your style of driving, high and on the outside.
Well, yeah, it really gets slick down, especially it's hot this time, and it's going to be a real slick racetrack. So, you know, I'm hoping that groove will come around to us. We've been running up, especially since they put the cement wall up. We used to run pretty high, but when it was a guardrail, you couldn't get too close because it'd suck you into it. So now you can sort of play off the cement wall, and it works pretty good. So we ran real good down here in June race, and you know, had lost the water out of the engine and stuff, and had some trouble. But you know, we feel like that you know, all we learned in, we might be able to use again this time.
Richard Petty, the king of stock car racing this year. Well, it hasn't been all that great a season. His best finish was a 6th, and that came in the most recent Grand National race at Talladega, Alabama.
Bob, there's a positive and there's a negative about running high. The positive is that if something happens, obviously, you don't have very far to go to get into the wall, and normally it's relatively minor. But the negative is that you really have to toe the line. The slightest little miscue, and the wall gets you.
The Barclays American Run for the Money is one of our highlights in today's race. That will be coming in 24 more laps. The driver leading at lap number 100, the halfway point, will pick up $10,000. This is lap number 76. They're on lap number 77 with Darrell Waltrip in the lead. Leader at the halfway point, $10,000. Average speed of the contest at this point, 146.77. It remains a Darrell Waltrip lead with Kyle Petty second, then Harry Gant, Cale Yarborough, and Neil Bonnet is now running fifth. We'll be back with more from Michigan International Speedway, the Champion Spark Plug 400. Some of the crowd on hand here at Michigan International Speedway for the Champion Spark Plug 400. The next Grand National race and our next telecast of a Grand National race will be at Bristol International Raceway in Bristol, Tennessee. The Busch 500 on that exciting half-mile high bank track. Last year's champion Terry Labonte. But all the other Grand National stars will be there to challenge him. Join us at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Saturday evening, August 24th, for the NASCAR Busch 500. Kind of a unique race, but because it'll be our first telecast of a Grand National race at night.
And Bob, we have just embarked on a journey as we look at Darrell Waltrip victories, where we're going to have 9 races in 10 weeks, so stay with us.
Here are Waltrip's victories now through the last few years. He only has 1 here in 1985, but in 1984 he had 7. In 83 he had 6, 82, 12, 81, 12, and those were the most victories that year. In 1980, Darrell visited victory lane on 5 different occasions. In 79, 7 times, and in 77 and 78, Waltrip was a winner on 6 different occasions in Grand National racing.
But look at that, 5 times in the last 8 years, he has won more victories than anybody else. Ronnie Bouchard in trouble.
Going to the low side of the racetrack and obviously headed for the pits once again is Ron Bouchard. He's over between turns 3 and 4. It's been a tough afternoon for Ron Bouchard, who started this race in 29th position, qualifying at an average speed of 160.524. He's been in a couple of times aside from his routine pit stops, and now is coming in once again. Last time they pulled the sheet metal away from the tires so that the tires would not cut down, and now Bouchard comes in again, and we have a car smoking in turn 4, and that is Richard Petty, and we have a car spinning up against the wall also in turn number 4, headed toward the infield. And
I think it might be Clark Dwyer.
It is indeed Clark Dwyer. Clark scraped the wall up in turn number 4 and now has brought the car down into the grassy area and will be stopping in front of the main grandstand here on the Tri-Oval. That's Clark Dwyer from Colorado Springs, Colorado, in the Sonny King Ford.
Well, I'm sure he got in Richard Petty's oil, and for Petty, another mark is in what has become a frustrating season. Apparently engine problems again, and that's something that's happened to him so many times this year. He's used Dan Gurney engines from California. Here comes the leader, Darrell Waltrip, coming in. Waltrip comes in.
And Bobby Allison is in trouble also.
In trouble on the backstretch, and there's Dale Earnhardt
has had
significant collision.
Yeah, our hard contact was something, either the retaining wall or another car, but Waltrip is stalled on the backstretch. The yellow is out. It was out because of the Clark Dwyer incident, and now we have cars in trouble on the backstretch.
And Bobby Hillen. Yeah, it's Waltrip in the pits, Allison down on the inside of turn number 3. Allison, Hillen, and Earnhardt involved in the altercation on the backstretch. Darrell Waltrip has pulled off a pit stop. Neil Bonnet is among the leaders who are in also right now. They come in here on lap number 83. Remember, everybody pitted around lap 50. It looks like Bobby Hillen's day is done. Bill Elliott and Cale Yarborough among the other leaders into the pits at this time. So everybody will be pitting, and after this caution flag, it's going to be interesting because we'll be able to see exactly where everybody stands.
Well, Dale Earnhardt is trying to make his way back to the pit area. Bill Elliott is in his pits. Bobby Allison is still out on the racetrack, and Bobby Hillen is out on the backstretch trying to get going once again. So there is the situation involving Bill Elliott, and they wave him off. He goes back out there. We are under yellow, remember. Dale Earnhardt has made it to the pit area, but he has a lot of front-end damage to that race car. Back with more in just a moment. Auto Racing 85 today, live from Michigan International Speedway in the Champion Sparkplug 400, being brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? And by Skoal Bandits, tobacco in a neat little pouch. It's a little pouch of tobacco pleasure. And by Mr. Goodwrench and General Motors Parts. Well, we're 85 laps into the race now, and we are under caution once again because of an incident here on the Tri-Oval involving Clark Dwyer, and a 3-car incident involving Bobby Allison, Bobby Hillen, and Dale Earnhardt on the backstretch. Let's go down to the pit area.
Well, Bobby Allison had the surprise of his life when he was traveling down the backstretch. I conferred with Wayne Bumgardner, and Wayne said that Bobby said that he was just traveling down there. He got into some oil, and somebody tapped him from behind. They brought the car in one time already, sent it back out. They peeled this away from the inside of the right rear tire. That's the inner liner that's kind of an excess sheet metal. They had to get that away from the tire. They're going to have to bring them back in again to do some more cosmetic body work to free those tires up. Let's go down now to Dick Berger, and he's got a further report on some of the other people in the accident.
Thanks, Jack. One of the people that's really in trouble is Dale Earnhardt. The front end of his car is thoroughly bashed. He came in here with 2 flat tires, a great deal of sheet metal damage, and even some of the material that holds things like oil coolers and radiators is broken away. The crew is working very hard on the car, but he's already down some laps. And right behind him, Bobby Hillen's car looks even worse. They're in the process of taking off the left front fender, right front fender. The hood is up, the entire grille and front bumper is gone. Well, if you're an auto body man, you're looking for a job, Pit Row at Michigan's a good place to look today.
And say that again, Bobby Hillen's car is very badly damaged to the front end. The grill area of that car is just mangled. There's Jeff Bodine on the racetrack, and let's try to talk with Jeff on the radio.
Jeff, this is Larry Newber up at ESPN. How's it going, buddy?
Well, it's tough going. It seems like it's always tough here at Michigan, but we're trying to make some adjustments. Seems like we were wearing our left side tires pretty bad. So now we've got new left side tires on, and we'll just see how the car reacts to that. But we're close, but we haven't found that right combination yet.
Well, the car is close and holding its own, but how about Jeff Bodine? How's that shoulder?
Well, the shoulder feels real good. I'm trying to find the right groove out here to run this car on. That's the hard part here in Michigan, to find the right groove for your car. There's so many grooves you can run, you got to pick out the right one. But my shoulder's doing fine. The Levi Garrett Exxon Motor Oil, Northwestern Security Life, Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet is running real good. The engine's running good. I'd like to thank Mark Graves, Randy Dork, all the guys at the engine shop. It's doing a great job.
Well, Jeff, we're also going to tune into Benny Parsons' race right now. We're going to ask you a favor. Why don't you introduce Benny Parsons?
Well, that's strange for me to be introducing Benny Parsons, a man of many years of racing, a veteran, won a lot of races, and an excellent person, a great person off the racetrack, great personality on the TV cameras and on the radio. And take it away, Benny.
All right, Benny, this is Bob Jenkins. We've been talking to Jeff Bodine on the in-car radio, and he's just given you an excellent introduction, calling you a great human being and a great race driver and everything like that. We want to find out from you how your race is going out there.
Well, my race isn't going very good. Huh?
You know, having a little bit of difficulty.
We're pretty bad off to begin with, which did get us a lap down. And Bodine, all that medicine he's taking for the shoulder must have went to his head.
We'll inform of such, Benny. Nice going, and we'll continue to watch your performance out there.
Thank you, Bob.
All right, the yellow is still out. They're cleaning up the racetrack in the backstretch where the 3-car accident occurred. 87 laps have been completed. We'll take this break and be right back to Michigan International. Darrell Waltrip is the leader of the champion Spark Plug 400. Harry Gant running second, and Kyle Petty is third. In fourth position would be Cale Yarborough. Fifth is Neil Bonnet. Sixth is Bill Elliott. Seventh is Greg Sachs. And eighth is the number 5 of Jeff Bodine. Those cars on the lead lap. And a little while ago, I mentioned that Greg Sachs was from upstate New York. Indeed, he is from Mattatuck, New York, which is a part of Long Island.
Guy who frequently ferries, as a matter of fact. Remember after that race at Daytona that he was back and forth across the water on ferries to try and race modifieds that night, and lives out there on the island, and matter of fact, rather proud of it. And we thank the viewer, by the way, who sent us very important tidings.
Jack Arute is with Clark Dwyer, who had a problem down here in the Tri-Oval. Jack?
Clark, to say you had a problem would be an understatement. What happened?
We're just running. I think we blew a tire and hit the wall. I think it was from Richard. Something from Richard Petty's car must have been in the track, because we already slowed down. We seen he blew up in front of us, and we're just trying to take it easy, and then I just popped a tire and went straight into the wall. So
this Sonny King Ford Honda team of Elmo Langley that you drive for is not one of the more well-heeled teams on the circuit. When you have an accident like this, in terms of dollars and cents, and also in terms of just your own feelings, what does it do to a race team?
Oh, it definitely hurts. A team like ours, when we crash a car, have to start repairing equipment or something, that might go straight into the tires of next week or something like that. I know we crashed in qualifying race in Daytona earlier this year, and you know, it seemed like that's all we were doing, trying to rebuild through the first half season. This isn't a real bad crash, but I hate to see it happen.
Well, you can be sure Clark Dwyer will be back, but it may take a while.
Now we're glad to see Clark not injured in that incident down here. There are the cars out on the backstretch, and we may be going green here this time around. Dale Earnhardt continues to visit the pit area, and they continue to tear off sheet metal and get everything straightened around so he can go back out onto the racetrack. Now, Bobby Hillen, whose car was badly damaged also in that accident, is back out there, but literally the whole front end, as far as sheet metal and body work is concerned, is missing. Now, the pace car off, the green comes back out. Lap number 90, we go back to green, and Darrell Waltrip is on the point as he leads a whole group of cars down toward turn number 1.
Remember, 400 miles, 200 laps. It's a 2-mile racetrack. We have pitted basically at lap number 90, so that pretty much sets it up that it's probable everybody will have to make 2 more stops. There may be some people in the crowd who can go 110 laps on 1 stop, but doubt it.
Penny trying to make the charge up into second position now. He is low on the racetrack. There are a couple of lap cars ahead of him as Darrell Waltrip comes off of corner number 4. Don't forget, in 9 more laps now, we'll have $10,000 awarded to the leader. We'll reach the halfway point in 9 more laps, and Barclays American pays the leader of that lap $10 grand.
Well, Kyle Petty obviously he had a chance, like everybody else did, to make some adjustments, but it looks like they may have gone backwards. Petty is kind of mired in that field back there and slipping back as everybody goes around, and there you see Bodine and Bill Elliott around the outside of Kyle. And maybe he's just marking time because traffic is very heavy right now. He knows he's been very fast all day today, so either something is tweaked just not properly, or maybe Kyle's taking his time.
So into second position now will be Cale Yarborough in car number 28. Third, I believe, would be Neil Bonnet, then Harry Gant, then Bill Elliott, and Jeff Bodine. Then we get back to Kyle Petty, whose car is not performing as it was just a few laps ago. There we are, the 3 cars of Bill Elliott and Jeff Bodine and several others. There's Cale Yarborough. He is in second position. You can see the interval between second and third, fourth, and fifth.
Bob Junior Johnson has certainly established many milestones there. There goes Bill Elliott racing again hard to the inside of Morgan Shepherd. Junior Johnson has established many milestones in Grand National Stock Car racing, and today, here at the Michigan International Speedway, he has an almost probable chance that he will become the team that wins $1 million for the first time in Grand National history. There is what's left of Dale Earnhardt's car as the rest of the leaders go by. Dale stays out of the racetrack, obviously with no aerodynamics whatsoever. But again, that's $1 million for a team. Now remember, that takes into account 2 cars, both the cars of Darrell Waltrip and the cars of Neil Bonnet. And as a matter of fact, the mark is so close that if Darrell Waltrip can lead lap number 100, that's the Barclays American Run for the Money, Junior Johnson will become the first team in NASCAR history to win over $1 million in a single season.
And that halfway point will be coming up in less than 7 laps now. Will it be Darrell Waltrip? Will it be Yarborough? Will it be any number of drivers? We'll be back to find out in just a moment at Michigan International Speedway. Less than 5 laps to go now before the halfway point, and $10,000 to the leader of lap number 100. It'll probably be one of these 3 drivers. Darrell Waltrip, who is leading right now. Yarborough high and squirrely in second position, and now dropping beside Cale Yarborough, trying to move into second spot is Bill Elliott, who has been in to the pits on several occasions today, 3 different times, but still is right up there in the hunt. Now it's going to be a 3-car side-by-side battle as they go down the backstretch, and we've still got 3 more laps before the $10,000 is awarded.
I think Cale's at a definite disadvantage. He's going fast right now, but the car is a little too loose for what it should be. Now, if you're home watching, and I guess everybody would be home or in their favorite watering hole, pick a car. Pick a car that you imagine yourself being in, and what moves would you make? $10,000 coming up. You see Cale getting squirrely again, getting sideways almost, coming way sideways that time. Coming out of turn number 4, like I said, He's a good one, but he's really working at a disadvantage. But pick somebody. Who would you be? And if you were Cale, where would you want to be? If you were Bill, where do you want to be? And if you're Darrell, how do you beat these two Fords?
Yarborough uses the low groove and momentarily moves into the lead, but look at Bill Elliott now going to the inside and Darrell Waltrip outside. One of these guys is going to walk off with $10,000 in less than 3 laps now. Waltrip leading right now, but Elliott and Cale Yarborough are battling with him. Now Elliott falls off the pace just a little bit as Cale Yarborough moves up into second. They enter turn number 4 now. This will complete lap number 98, so 2 to go before lap 100.
Now aerodynamically, the Chevys, normally you can draft a little better. It's a little harder to follow the Fords. Will that be a factor? Sure, here at Michigan, it's definitely a factor. The way this track is shaped like a bowl, you can really use the draft to your advantage. It's maybe not quite as dramatic as the 2.5 and 2.66 mile speedways down south, but it's definitely a factor.
1.5 laps to go now to the halfway point. Waltrip is right now leading, and now we have a 4th car that's coming into play here. Neil Bonnet in car number 12. Darrell Waltrip's teammate has suddenly come on to make it a 4-car battle for the lead. This will complete lap number 99 when they cross the stripe this time, so next time around will be the halfway point.
I guess it's not too difficult to be impressed with somebody who's won over 80 Grand National races, but I really am impressed with Cale because that car is just not working as well as the other cars go as far as suspension and handling goes, but Cale, he's whipping it.
And you can believe that these drivers are very aware that the halfway point is coming up, and the halfway point pays $10,000. Bill Elliott way down low on the racetrack moves in the lead as they go down the backstretch. Elliott wants the $10,000. Waltrip behind him, then Yarborough and Bonnet. Now Cale looking for the opportunity to move into second place and challenge Bill Elliott for the 10 grand. They're in the north banking through turn number 3, now into turn number 4, and just about to come on to the tri-oval. Bill Elliott leads at this point. Here they come in front of the grandstand. The crowd is waving. Bill Elliott is going to lead lap 100 and pick up $10,000.
Now, how did he do that? How did he make that look so easy? Here we thought we were all set for the greatest shootouts we've seen in about a month, and all of a sudden Elliott says, oh, my turn, here I go, guys. Down low, and he's gone.
Well, it seemed like that was the case. He said to himself, this is lap 99.
I knew I was forgetting something.
Yeah. So Elliott picks up $10,000 awarded by Barclays American in the run for the money. There is smiling Bill Elliott, who is in the lead right now with Waltrip running second, Yarborough third, and now Neil Bonnet challenging Yarborough for that 3rd spot as we go back and concentrate on the racing and not necessarily the halfway point.
Yeah, Bonnet is the interesting wild card in the mix. You saw Jeff Bodine and Harry Gant go by on that speed shot, but Bonnet, he really hasn't shown the ability for quite some time to run right up there at the front, but boy, he's doing it now.
Well, these drivers have a lot to do out there handling these race cars. Off of corner number 4 now. This was a few laps ago in Cale Yarborough's near spin.
Well, Bob, the interesting thing about this is that most drivers in race cars today, when they get close to a spin like that, they lose a great deal of momentum, and the rest of the cars that are around them streak away. Cale was able to hold on to the throttle, hold on to the accelerator, and he lost very little momentum and stayed right in that battle. That is, they came around with a 4th turn on lap number 100. There he is, sliding again.
That is a great battle for second position here. Waltrip, Yarborough, and Neil Bonnet are going at it out there on the racetrack as Bill Elliott is pulling away. There is Morgan Shepherd, who has run such a great race in the first half, who has slowed down, moved to the apron of the racetrack, and looks like we'll be bringing that Helen Ray Special Chevrolet into the pit area. Morgan Shepherd from Conover, North Carolina. Bill Elliott, so dominant, so good this year on the NASCAR Winston Cup Trail. And the question that everybody is asking in the grandstand and in the pit area, what is it about Bill Elliott and the car that makes it so good? Well, here's Jack with more on that story.
The question all year from the competition on the Winston Cup Trail has been, what makes this car, Bill Elliott, run so quick? Is it an engine? Is it the Thunderbird body design? Or possibly is it somewhere beneath the car in the chassis and the suspension? A week ago, while in the Trans Am race, we had the opportunity to quiz one of Ford's engineers, Bob Riley, as to his opinion.
Well, I think I have a good relationship with the Elliots, and I've discussed suspension with them and what I thought might work, and they're very quick to try different items, and I think they may have incorporated some of the things I've talked about. But once again, Bill is a very good development driver. You can talk to him about camber change or some suspension item, and I know he'll try it and usually select the best way to go.
Let's take a look at Riley's theories in practice. At Darlington, a treacherous turn 4 area hardly affects Elliott, while his pursuers simply hang on with a very bumpy ride. At Pocono, Elliott again looked like he was connected to the track on a rail, while Jeff Bodine fought hard simply to keep up. Just last week at Talladega, Alabama, Elliott's ride took him where others couldn't go, down low. And it does look like suspension superiority is a factor in Bill Elliott's remarkable year.
And I feel like my car has worked pretty well a lot of places, and I feel like that has given me the edge in some areas of winning races and whatever. But still, going in, I feel like that I want to get the car working as good as I can, because I do work on the car. I do know what goes under it, and to me, that's an advantage to me, because if I change something, I know it's done, and I felt like that, you know, I've made a decision to do it, whether it's right or wrong or indifferent in the race.
Well, even with Bill Elliott's non-committal nature, it's one thing that we do know for certain. The key to getting around any racetrack is taking the horsepower and the handling and putting it down to these tires on the track.
Well, pit stops are being made because Morgan Shepherd's car is stalled out in turn number 3. Let's go down to the pit area and Dick Berggren.
And Bill Elliott's getting a fast change of right side tires. A lot of fuel gets sprayed around here on the crew. Waltrip behind him, Bonnet behind him. Elliott beat both of those cars out of the pit. Very good pit stop for Bill Elliott.
Well, Bonnet went around him, though, before they got to the racetrack. It's Bonnet, and then Elliott, then Waltrip and Yarborough coming out onto the racetrack in that order. Well, Bill Elliott has been so dominant this year and has looked very good here in the first half of this Champion Spark Plug 400. He was the leader at the halfway point and would like to pick up his 9th win of the year here at Michigan this weekend. So we're yellow because of a stalled Morgan Shepherd car in turn 3, and we'll be right back. Just past the halfway mark, 107 laps completed here at Michigan, and the Coney mid-race recap brought to you by Coney, makers of shock absorbers and suspension kits for all performance cars. Coney, proven superior. Bill Elliott began this race from the pole position with a new track record at 165.479 miles an hour, and right now Bill Elliott is running up front. Jeff Bodine started outside of row number 2 in the Levi Garrett Chevrolet. At the halfway point, we had 4 leaders and 7 lead changes, 2 caution periods, and 12 laps run under caution. Out of race, Tim Richmond early to go with a blown engine, then Richard Petty, Clark Dwyer with a problem down in the tri-oval hitting the wall. Ron Bouchard and Bobby Allison have also dropped out of the race. Now, the top 10 at this point. Bill Elliott, the leader. Darrell Waltrip, 2nd. Cale Yarborough is 3rd. Neil Bonnet, 4th. And Jeff Bodine is 5th. 6 through 10, Harry Gant, Greg Sachs, Kyle Petty, Benny Parsons, and Ricky Rudd. We are under yellow right now because of Morgan Shepherd's stalled car out in turn number 3. We anticipate, however, going back to green in just a couple of more laps. The average speed of the race at this point, 138.70 miles an hour. The green has just come out here at Michigan. We are back to racing, and it's a battle up front between teammates Bonnet and Waltrip. Waltrip on the inside of the racetrack in turn number 3, battling with Neil Bonnet on the high side. And Waltrip inches his way into the lead, following behind these 2, Cale Yarborough and Harry Gant, who are also battling for position. The Junior Johnson cars are side by side as they come through the tri-oval. Now Cale Yarborough moves to the inside and makes it a 3 abreast race, and Yarborough moves into the lead.
Interesting mix. Also, Kyle Petty is up there. Jeff Bodine all on the lead lap. Most of the cars on the screen in front of you are racing for the lead, racing for position. There are 5 cars running under a blanket, so to speak, and they all are in it for the number 1 position.
Greg Sachs in car number 77 has been black flagged because of a smoking problem and is in the pits. And now Petty moves to the inside down the backstretch, and like a shot out of a cannon, Kyle Petty moves up alongside Yarborough. Bonnet moves high of Cale Yarborough as they make it a side-by-side 3-way race in the north, banking turns 3 and 4. Now Petty moves into the tri-oval again.
This is almost like days of yore. We were commenting during the last commercial that what is it about this racetrack that the last couple of years there hasn't been nearly as many lead changes as in years past. Some may say, well, the racetrack isn't the same. Some may say, well, we just haven't had enough caution flags. Well, what's happening right now is like the way it used to be in the 60s and 70s.
And look at how many grooves the drivers are able to drive in out there. 3 and 4 abreast during in the turn number 1 and 2 area. Still having handling problems, it would appear, as that car once again got sideways in turn number 2. Now Bill Elliott moves in and does battle with Yarborough and Waltrip.
Yeah, but you know something? A good cowboy only gets thrown off the Bronco when he wants to, and that's Cale.
The leader as they come down is Kyle Petty, Bonnet second, and Jeff Bodine is in third position. Then Waltrip and Yarborough and Bill Elliott, and Harry Gant is also lurking in the shadows.
Great moment for Kyle Petty. Kyle Petty not only leading this race, but right now dominating, at least for a couple laps. He went down low, a groove that we've seen Bill Elliott really use only successfully so far today. But Kyle went through that trail that Bill had blazed, and now Kyle finds himself in the lead for about 2 or 3 laps of glory here. But here comes Jeff Bodine. There's Cale Yarborough. You see the interval there between first and sixth. They're all right together on the screen. Bodine, Bonnet, Waltrip, and Cale Yarborough following Kyle.
Ooh, and do they get close up in corner number 4 as Neil Bonnet and Jeff Bodine drop fenders. Kyle Petty is setting the pace of the Champion Sparkplug 400. Kyle looking for his very first win ever in Winston Cup Grand National competition. He is leading here and leading some very outstanding drivers. Well, let's go down to Jack Arute, who's with Waddell Wilson in the Cale Yarborough pit.
And Waddell is the crew chief on that Hardee's Ford Thunderbird. Waddell, all afternoon it looks like he's close, but still isn't handling the way you'd like him to be.
Well, you know, here at Michigan is a racetrack that you chase all day, and you hope to get it adjusted just right at the end of the race, and that's what we're working on right now, is trying to find the right combination for Cale.
What's the key? Do you make the chassis adjustment with the screw jacks, or do you go for stagger within the tires?
Well, we do it both ways. It's just depending on what he tells me that he feels is wrong with the race car.
Well, that's the story here. Still a lot of strategy going on down in the pits, at least as far as Waddell Wilson is concerned.
All right. There is Cale following Darrell Waltrip high on the racetrack with Jeff Bodine on the low side. And we watched a lap ago Bill Elliott sort of fall off the pace there for a moment. He took the car toward the inside of the racetrack, but Elliott is back on the button once again. Cale Yarborough in the Hardee's Ford, and we had an opportunity earlier in the weekend to talk with him about running this racetrack.
Cale, all things considered, traditionally it's better to run in a pack with NASCAR. You seem to be able to excel and win races that way. But given what you have right now and what's happened to you in the Ford this year, would you rather run in a pack or run alone?
Well, if everybody's in a pack, it would suit me to run in a pack. But if I'm gonna have to run alone, I want to be way out front alone. I don't want to be way back alone. But you know, the Ford car does work well in a pack and in a draft and in close traffic. So whatever it takes is where we'll have to go. If I can run out front, I prefer running out front by myself if that's possible.
All right, now Cale Yarborough is not so much in a pack, but he is drafting on Darrell Waltrip in turn number 3. They come down and complete lap number 117. It is Petty leading, Bonnet in second, then Bodine, Waltrip, Elliott, Yarborough, and Harry Gant has also nosed into the picture.
You know, Bob, often right after a pit stop, people have a tendency to not hold back at all because some changes have probably been made and they want to see what they got. So sometimes right after a pit stop, it's a real indication of how well everybody's car is performing. And very interesting, Kyle Petty, since he's moved to the lead, he's been holding on and stretching the advantage just a little bit. Kyle Petty is about 10 car lengths ahead of Darrell Waltrip right there, who's running in second, with Cale running in third, it's Neil Bonnet running in second, Darrell and Cale running fourth and fifth. But Kyle Petty has really been showing some strength. And Kyle, as well as Neil, have opened up about 20 car lengths over third place.
Well, here's a replay of an incident just a few seconds ago in which Harry Gant got a little out of shape.
Well, Harry is following Cale on that one. And you saw the number 28 Hardee's car also get a little loose coming around that corner. corner, the rear end coming around, the car wanting to turn around and spin rather than go straight. And Harry, who was following, he may have gotten a little closer to the wall, and the draft may play just a little more tricks on him than what he anticipated.
Harry running in 6th, now blasting around Cale Yarborough and moving up another position as Yarborough is off the pace. Cale Yarborough brings the car down to the inside of the racetrack, and just as we were talking about how well he was running, he moves into the pit area with an obvious, serious problem with that Ford.
Well, Bobby's only finished 4 races this year. He has a winning percentage of 25%. He's won 1 of the 4 races that he's finished without seeing any smoke and thinking about what happens in this racetrack. Overheating looms as a real possibility as the problem for Cale Yarborough.
So Yarborough drops out of the race, and Greg Sachs, who was black flagged a few laps ago for a smoking problem, has also pulled behind the wall and is a DNF. There is the leader, Kyle Petty, and although there's a long way to go to this in this one, 120 laps will be completed next time around, 80 to go. You've got to really start thinking about the possibility of a Kyle Petty win. Now, one of the things that's most important, of course, is the pit crew, and you don't find a better pit crew than the Wood brothers.
No, you sure don't, Bob. You know, Kyle and Joe Ruttman are probably the 2 most successful, maybe the best drivers in NASCAR, at least as of this moment, who have yet to win. And a lot of people would certainly like to see both of those guys get a win in their career. Certainly means a lot of money for them as they get onto the winner's circle. And today certainly looms as a possibility as Kyle's.
Kyle is out front, battle for 2nd position. Right now in 2nd spot, Bill Elliott, who dropped off the pace a few laps ago, but is back up into 2nd spot. And Neil Bonnet is running 3rd. We'll be back with more live coverage of the Champion Spark Plug 400. If you're back at Michigan International Speedway, where Bill Elliott has gone past Kyle Petty, and Elliott now sets the pace in the Champion Spark Plug 400. A couple of interesting drivers have dropped out of competition recently. Let's go first of all to the pit area and Dick Berggren, who's with Greg Sachs.
And Greg's sitting in the garage area. His car is jacked up. Greg, they're working underneath. What's the problem?
Well, Dick, I'll tell you, it appears that we've got a leak in the oil pan. It looks like we picked up something off the track because the motor's running very strong and the car's working fine, but it appears that we picked up something off the track and put a hole in the pan from the outside.
You've made no effort to get out of this car. You're ready to go back in when they have it fixed?
No, I feel fine. The car's working great, and I hope we can get back out.
And that's the story with Greg Sachs. Terry Labonte, meanwhile, also has engine trouble. He has lost a cylinder, and he is well off the pace. And right now, we're going to go to Cale Yarborough, who is with Jack Arute.
Cale Yarborough, disappointment this afternoon. What finally put you out of the race?
Well, I don't know. Something broke in the engine, Jackie. Coming down the backstretch, it just seized up on me and blew.
Well, you seemed like you were a little concerned when I talked to Waddell about a possible overheating because you took a ding in the radiator as well early on.
No, we didn't have any overheating problem. Just something just broke, just a bad part somewhere.
Well, another day in the garage area for Cale Yarborough, but you can be bet that the Hardee's team will be back, and it'll come back soon.
Jack, while you're standing there with Cale, you might ask him about that move there on the lap number 100. It really showed us a lot from Elliott, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. And let me ask him real quick, although we don't have the camera here. Cale, that move on the lap there, 100, it looked like you were really going for the 10 grand there.
Well, yeah, I was trying. As a matter of fact, we took some bite out of the car, and it was a little bit too loose for me. I feel like if we'd not taken the bite out and made it so loose that we probably had a shot at it, but we gambled and lost.
You're one of the few drivers, though, that doesn't seem too concerned when a car is real loose. You're not afraid to wrestle one of these grizzly bears to the ground.
Well, I sure have been doing that today. I'll tell you, I've been loose most of the day. The racetrack's awful slick, but I would have liked to lead that halfway point.
Well, they call Earnhardt one tough customer, but you can be sure this guy's pretty tough enough.
You can bet on that. And thanks, Jack, and thanks to Cale Yarborough. Cale was the winner of the most recent Grand National race at Talladega, Alabama, but it's a dropout in the middle stages of the Champion Spark Plug 400 here at Michigan. Now, on the racetrack, it's Bill Elliott leading. Kyle Petty running in second position, and you can see the interval there. It's only a second or so, and Cale is certainly within striking distance still, but Elliott looking good.
Well, you know what is so impressive about Elliott this year, Bob, is that, you know, it was one thing to dominate a series back in the 1960s and even the 1970s because you could stumble upon a secret and then dominate the racing. But there is so much money, so much technology. I never really thought that this would happen again, particularly in Grand National stock car racing. But the Elliotts have really turned the key.
Well, unfortunately, earlier today, Richard Petty dropped out of the race. He was one of the early drivers to drop out of competition in the STP Pontiac. But nevertheless, with that in mind, here's an ESPN STP pit stop.
This is another STP pit stop. I'm Larry Newber. You know, not a lot of people get an opportunity to go inside a garage where race cars are born, but that's where we are today, the Curb Racing Shops where Richard Petty's cars come from. You know, Richard, you hear a lot about the athleticism involved in driving race cars. Some people say it takes endurance, hand-eye coordination comes up, a little bit of bravery now and then, but what's it take to really make a good Grand National stock car driver?
Well, I feel like for myself and a lot of other drivers that I see, I think it's a mind-over-matter situation. You know, no matter how good a shape you get in or how you eat and how you take care of yourself, you still got to stay in these race cars like 4.5 hours at a time. Temperature's 130 or 40 degrees inside the car. So, you know, you've got to have a situation that all of that stuff comes together, and I think the mind over matter is what brings it all together.
Well, it all comes back to competence eventually, and I'm wondering, where's that come from? I mean, taking a race car and going into a corner at 200 miles an hour and assuming it'll do what you ask it to do.
Well, I think the confidence comes from right here with these boys working on the car. They're doing a good job. You come in, you check on them, you see that they've got everything like what you think you got to do, and then you go out there and then you got to have a little confidence in yourself also.
What if I wanted to be a Grand National stock car driver? What advice would you give to me about making that first step toward becoming a race driver?
That's a hard question. You know, the first thing you got to have is dedication. You got to say, okay, guys, it's going to take me 3 or 4 years to learn to drive a stock car and be competitive in it. You know, you got to have a good sponsor like STP and stuff like this to go in because you got to have the money. But in your own self, you got to have all of these things going for you, and you got to say, okay, come good times or bad times, I've got to dedicate myself to 3 or 4 years just to see if I'm going to make it or not. So there's very few people that want to come in and dedicate themselves to a 3 or 4 year trial period just to find out if they can do the job or not.
Words of advice from the man who really ought to know, Richard Petty. He's won, well, 200 of these races. This has been another STP Pit Stop. I'm Larry Newber.
Racing engines run hot. STP oil treatment fights the effects of heat in racing cars. Your car runs hot, too. In everyday driving, heat weakens your oil's vital protective properties. That's motor oil breakdown. STP fights motor oil breakdown. STP strengthens your oil, putting extra lubricants and anti-wear agents to work just where they're needed. Whenever you change...
Welcome back to Michigan International Speedway and ESPN's live coverage of the Champion Spark Plug 400. Bill Elliott is the leader right now with 131 laps completed. Kyle Petty is second, then Darrell Waltrip, Neil Bonnet, and Jeff Bodine. In sixth position is Harry Gant, then seventh, a lap down, Benny Parsons. Eighth is Ricky Rudd. Ninth is Phil Parsons. 10th is Rusty Wallace. 11th is Dick Trickle. 12th is Terry Labaki. 13th is Dave Marcus, and 14th position is Buddy Arrington.
By the way, as we watch the tussle going on for third, fourth, fifth, I guess they're tussling over third, but that's third, fourth, and fifth. There is the leader, Bill Elliott, right now entering the backstretch, or rather entering turn number 3. We pan back looking for second. There's second, Kyle Petty. Now, where's third, fourth, and fifth? You can see them pull back. Where are they? Coming. There they are.
Well, that's the interval. It's almost a full straightaway lead for Bill Elliott and Kyle Petty running in second position. This is 3, 4, and 5. Darrell Waltrip, Neil Bonnet, and Jeff Bodine. There are 6 cars running on the lead lap. The average speed of the race is 139.09 miles an hour. We have been slowed by 3 caution periods this afternoon. The race record again is 153.8, so we are not at record-setting speed at this moment. Bill Elliott, the leader, and the interval between him and Kyle Petty, there you can see it. It's probably a couple and a half seconds.
And Harry Gant is the 6th car, remember, that's still on the lead lap. We have completed 133 laps. laps, by the way. Everybody came in approximately lap 105. So within about 15 to 20 laps will be the next round of pit stops. And if they happen right at lap 150, it might be enough to go the rest of the way if there are no more caution flags.
We have had 7 leaders of this race. Besides Elliott, Darrell Waltrip has led. So has Neil Bonnet. So has Jeff Bodine, Harry Gant, Cale Yarborough, and Kyle Petty. Yarborough, however, dropped out of competition just a few laps ago. The interval between first and second right there is about 1.5 seconds right now.
Michigan International Speedway, 18-degree banking on the corners. The backstretch, by the way, relatively flat at just 5 degrees. And this thing was built back in the late 1960s at a cost of $5 million. When it was originally put up, there were 9 miles of fencing around the outside and inside. And earlier today, we heard Richard Petty talking about putting up the new cement wall. That's a little more dependable than the old corrugated steel that used to ring the Speedway.
Kyle Petty running in second position. Now, another second-generation, shall we say, driver out there on the racetrack is this young man, the brother of Darrell Waltrip, Mike Waltrip, driving car number 23, the Hedman Henner R.L. Monroe Chevrolet. Mike, of course, is from Hillsborough, Kentucky. And we asked him earlier about the weekend, his relationship with his brother.
Michael, is having Darrell brother an advantage or a disadvantage when you're trying to make your own way?
Somewhat of an advantage. I can ease over to his garage area, his pit, and talk to him and tell him what my car's doing, and he comes out and watches me, and you know, it's been a real asset to have him as far as technically setting up the race car. As far as getting out there on the racetrack, it really hadn't made a whole bunch of difference, because those guys out there don't give a darn whether you're Darrell Waltrip's brother or who you are. So I think overall it's been quite an asset.
Well, he's one of those drivers, I guess you could say, we watched his career blossom here on ESPN, because 2-3 years ago, we watched him grow in the Darlington Dash Series.
Yeah, we really did. He won a lot of races. And by the way, another guy who has joined the, and Michael looks like he may be slowing a little bit, can't tell, looks like he may be coming in, who joined the Michael Waltrip parade this weekend. Harry Melling has financially assisted this project for Michael Waltrip, along with Bill Quisenberry and the Hedman Henner people for this weekend in Michigan.
Well, here's a replay of what happened to Mike entering turn number 3. The car just got away from it looks like. He scraped the wall and now heads for the inside of the racetrack and the pit area. Mike Waltrip from Owensboro, Kentucky. You see that he did indeed have a little bit of encounter with the retaining wall.
Yeah, the northern version of the Darlington strike.
Right.
And we will be in Darlington coming up, by the way. And remember that Darlington race, which will be here on ESPN. Bill Elliott going after a bonus of $1 million.
A cool $1 million.
Yeah, as if he hasn't won enough already this year. Speaking of Elliott, I think it's him again.
Yeah, I think it is, and I think he's leading here and looking for his 9th win of 1985. It's about a 2-second lead now over Kyle Petty. On the racetrack, some battles back of Bill Elliott as the yellow once again comes out on Michigan International, and as we look around the 2-mile trioval, we cannot see any specific things. Could be because of the Mike Waltrip brush with the wall up in turn number 3. It could be for some debris that's been on the racetrack, but nothing serious has led to this yellow on lap number 138. So we will take this break and be right back with more live coverage of the Champion Spark Plug 400 from Michigan International Speedway. On the racetrack, and they race coming out of the pits. Just a few seconds ago, Harry Gant knocked down a pylon as he tried to beat Bodine out of the pit area.
Yeah, they had quite a little shootout there, didn't they, get out of the pits?
Let's go down to Jack Arute, who's someplace down in the pit area. Jack?
What you're looking at is the inside of Dale Earnhardt's front bumper that was tore off in the accident. But the interesting thing that we've discovered is the use of foam rubber insulation on the inside. Now, the way the race drivers or the race mechanics position it is thusly. It cuts down aerodynamically on the drag that would be created by the wind running through the parts that have been riveted to close up the headlight doors and some of the other superfluous areas that are not necessary on a racing car, but necessary on a road car. This is a first. It's only been being used, since about the beginning of this year. But boy, when you have to tear it off, this stuff just goes everywhere, and you get yourself one heck of a junk pile here on pit road.
All right, thanks, Jack. On the racetrack, we are still under yellow. The reason for this yellow is a piece of debris down in corner number 4. are back in their regular position, so perhaps next time around we'll get a green flag. The leader of the race is Bill Elliott, and a couple of cars come into the pit area and almost collide. Phil Parsons and Harry Gant. Let's go to Jeff Bodine on the radio.
Jeff, this is Larry Nuber again. Can you catch Elliott and that surprise Kyle Petty?
Well, we're going to try, Larry. That's a real tough job, but we just changed the two rear tires where everybody else changed the left side, I believe. So we're going to try to give them a run here. The car worked real well that last time. It kind of faded towards the end before that caution, but we made a little adjustment. We hope it's right now.
Jeff, do you think everybody has been showing us all they have, or is somebody out there, maybe yourself, holding back just a bit?
Well, we're not holding back. We're trying to keep up with everybody. Probably Bill Elliott is the guy that's been holding back, but he's out front now, and I'm sure he wants to stay there, so we'll see what he's got.
Is your shoulder still okay, Jeff?
Feeling real good.
Stay with it, buddy.
Jeff Bodine, one of our 7 leaders here this afternoon. He led lap number 84, and right now is shown back in 4th position as the yellow remains on, but the cars are forming in turn number 3 for the 2 abreast restart, and we should be going back to green here in just a second. Benny Parsons is the first car at the head of the pack in the 2nd line, which means he is a lap down, but Benny's being shown in 8th position. Now the pace car off of the racetrack, and the green comes out once again on lap number 142. We are back to racing. Elliott and Kyle Petty lead him down. Darrell Waltrip right behind Kyle Petty. Then comes Jeff Bodine and Neil Bonnet as they once again thunder into turn number 1, the 18-degree banking.
Basically, everybody stopped around lap number 140, and I guess you had to because everybody else did. But we're running on a course where everybody probably could have made it at one more stop, but because we pitted about 10 or 12 laps prematurely as a result of this caution, everybody's got to go 60 laps or 120 miles. They can't do that. There's one more pit stop, and if it happens under green, this could be a very intriguing finish.
Kyle Petty is tucked in behind Bill Elliott, drafting on him off of the 4th corner. Darrell Waltrip also hanging right in there in 3rd position. By the way, while the cars were making pit stops, one car came back from the garage area and onto the racetrack. Clark Dwyer in car number 64 made a reappearance. Clark, you remember, had contact with the retaining wall down here in the Troy Oval early in the race, but he is back out there. Now Waltrip pulls up to challenge Kyle Petty for 2nd position as they race down the backstretch, and Waltrip goes into 2nd position. Let's go to the pit area again in Jackaroo.
One of the things that we've noticed, gentlemen, down here on pit road was when Bill Elliott pulled his car into the pits for service, it sounded like the engine maybe, and I repeat maybe, wasn't running as well as it was before. It had a unique, unusual sound to it. I queried the team and asked Ernie Elliott, was there a problem? Of course, he said no. So then I worked my way down here to the Wood brothers and asked them if they heard the same thing when the car came by them. They agreed, and they say maybe they feel there is a problem with Elliott's car. They're hoping.
That's something that we'll keep an eye on up here in the booth. Right now, he is not pulling away by any means from the rest of the drivers. As a matter of fact, Waltrip is right on his back bumper now as they go into turn number 3. Waltrip looking to take the lead here, now looking to the inside of Bill Elliott in the north banking. But right now, Waltrip content to stay in 2nd position. Elliott leads another lap.
Optimally, you shoot for RPMs maybe in the 7,500, 7,800 range. The Ford's a little less, maybe as low as 7,200. They gear these race cars normally with about 370, 364 gears. And so when something does go awry in the engine, there is a definite sound that changes, and you can really tell that something might just be going just a little bit off. And that's apparently what we've been picking up down in the pit area.
Down to Dick Bergeron in the pit area.
Well, on the racetrack, the number 9 Elliott car sounds just fine. It doesn't seem as if it's sick. But again, it's perfectly possible it could have some minor internal problem. A spark plug that's not firing as well as perhaps it should, or bad plug wire, a valve that's gone away just a tad. Hard to say. I guess we're going to really find out right on the hammer, and he's going to need all the engine he can find.
Right now, staying just a few car lengths ahead of Darrell Waltrip as they race down the backstretch once again. Neil Bonnet has moved into third place. Kyle Petty and Jeff Bodine are racing for fourth spot.
As we watch the leaders up front, just one word, by the way, about Mario Andretti. He's won a lot of races like these guys. You know, he was injured here at the Michigan International Speedway, right about there, as a matter of fact, a couple weeks ago. He is progressing. By the way, he's starting to comb his own hair this week, and Michael Knight tells us that's quite a progress, and the plan is still for Andretti, by the way, who may be home watching, to return at Pocono next week.
Kyle Petty was running in second position, but he has now dropped back to fifth spot, running behind Jeff Bodine out there on the racetrack. And we had an opportunity to talk to Kyle Petty about learning to drive here at Michigan.
With what Kyle Petty learned at Michigan in the first race, what does he bring to the second race here tomorrow?
I don't know. Hopefully a little bit better car and, you know, a little bit better driving car. We feel like we pulled the wrong gear here last time. You know, the bottom of the racetrack seems to be the way around this racetrack. The way the track got last time, it moved to the top, and we just had a wrong gear to run on the top of the racetrack. And, you know, this time when the race starts, then we'll have the right gear to run pretty much wherever we want to run. So, you know, we feel like that's going to help us a little bit. If we can get the car to drive as good as it's driving right now and get it to stay that way, then we feel like we'll be all right. This track is a type of track where most of the tracks turn anyhow, and you got to be able to drive them.
Kyle Petty in the Wood Brothers 711 Ford running in fifth position. Up front, it is still Bill Elliott, but not pulling away by any means from Darrell Waltrip, who is the defending champion of this race, the Champion Sparkplug 400.
Waltrip seems to move in on Elliott each lap as they come around the fourth turn and the second corner. He seems to be getting into the turns just a little bit, and that extra momentum gives him an opportunity to move up on him as they exit the corners. Now, if he's drafting, of course, as he goes down the front stretch, Bill's car in front will pull him along. As they go to the corner like right now, Darrell has to accelerate just a little bit to keep up with the draft, because as Bill's car turns, it has a tendency to pull away from him and break the draft.
The Winston Cup Grand National point standings are very reflective of what's going on here on the racetrack, as we now see Darrell Waltrip pull alongside and inch his way into the lead, at least momentarily, in turn number 3, and a battle also for third spot behind him between Neil Bonnet and Jeff Bodine. But let's focus in on this battle for the lead. It is Bill Elliott up high on the racetrack in turn 4, and Darrell Waltrip low. They almost touch in the north banking in turn number 4 onto the tri-oval. Virtually a dead heat as they cross the line for the lead.
Darrell Waltrip, a man who's become accustomed to winning 6, 7, 8, 9 races a year and certainly leading the league in wins for a season, has really taken a backseat to Bill Elliott. He would consider Elliott certainly his arch rival for 1985. He would really like to beat him head-to-head here at Michigan today.
Well, Waltrip had the slight advantage as they crossed the line there, so Elliott led lap 122 through 149, but Waltrip led lap number 150. Now I think we're going to see Bill Elliott go back into the lead on lap number 151. We mentioned that the point standings reflecting of the standings here, as Bill Elliott is the leader in the point standings and the leader of this race. Waltrip is second in both categories. Neil Bonnet is third in the point standings, and right now he is running in fourth spot. Jeff Bodine, who is fourth in the point standings, is in third position. Ricky Rudd is in fifth in the Winston Cup Grand National point standings. Then 6 through 10, Harry Gant, Kyle Petty, Terry Labonte, Bobby Allison, and Lake Speed. I think the story in this second 10, Larry, is Terry Labonte, who has dropped off considerably in the last few races because of some very disappointing finishes.
We talked to Terry this week, Bob, and he said, well, with a shrug of the shoulders, that's just one of those things that happen. We go to a race, we practice on Thursday and Friday, qualify well, we know we're in the hunt, but these little things keep popping up, these surprises that keep us from being competitive. And I think his attitude is probably pretty accurate, because the team is still showing the ability to be certainly among one of the better in NASCAR racing, but they've had some bad luck. And we've mentioned it many times before that you have to have good luck to be successful in racing. Although I don't know about Elliott. He may be having bad luck and still winning. I'm not sure.
Well, he's winning at least. 47 laps to go. This is the battle for third spot. Jeff Bodine, car number 5. Neil Bonnet in number 12 and Kyle Petty in number 7. We have 2 Chevys and a Ford running here. Bodine moves to the inside and passes, Bonnet moves to the inside and passes Bodine for 3rd spot. And Kyle Petty now is looking toward the inside of Jeff Bodine.
We looked at points a couple of moments ago. Winners this year, Elliott, as we mentioned before, has 8 wins. That's essentially about half of the races, 8 out of 17. Neil Bonnet and Dale Earnhardt are the only 2 double winners. They have 2 apiece. Waltrip, Labonte, Gant, Cale Yarborough, and Greg Sachs are all the people with single wins. But the interesting thing are the pole positions. They've been spread around only among 5 drivers: Bonnet, Gant, Labonte, and then Waltrip and Elliott. That's interesting because obviously that has applications toward the Busch Clash at the beginning of the 1986 season.
There you got an indication of the interval between the first 5 cars. There's about a second and a half between the leader, Bill Elliott, and Darrell Waltrip. Then about the same amount back to this battle for 3rd, 4th, and 5th position. Neil Bonnet, Jeff Bodine, and Kyle Petty. 154 laps have been completed. Average speed 138.33 miles an hour. So far, 7 different drivers have led this Champion Spark Plug 400.
Jeff Bodine, the number 5 car, he's been running well, not only on the super speedways like here in Michigan, but also the short tracks. It's become commonplace for Bodine to qualify in the top 6. It's not really a surprise, but he certainly is one of the more pleasant stories of 1985. He's truly become quickly competitive.
Harry Gant remains on the lead lap in car number 33. He's shown in 6th position, but is not up there with the 3rd, 4th, and 5th place competitors. Perhaps we can get the reason why from Jack Arute.
Well, perhaps I can give you the reason why he may indeed win this event, gentlemen. See these gas cans? They don't intend to use them again. Talked to Travis Carter, although he didn't want to go on camera and address the issue. He said, we're going to plan not to make another stop. By my calculations, he's the only driver, Harry Gant that is, that can go the distance. It'll be marginal, but could go the distance without another pit stop. We'll just have to wait and see, won't we?
Well, that is interesting. Maybe that's why he's kind of laying back right now and conserving the fuel, because if he can go the distance, he will have perhaps a decided advantage on everybody else.
Unofficially, Bob, we had Harry coming in at lap 141. That means he has to go 59 laps, 118 miles. He can't do that with the foot to the floor all the way down every lap. He needs to draft, probably. He needs to be a little conservative. He can't do battle with people. He can't be sliding all over the racetrack. He can't burn up extra fuel. If Harry Gant can go 118 miles, that would be tremendous.
Well, we mentioned the fact that he's not up there with this battle for 3rd, 4th, and 5th place, but at the same time, they're not pulling away very much. So Harry is indeed in a good position, right, Jack?
Yes, and let me answer some of the things or add to what Larry was saying. You know, at Talladega, Alabama, they did some inspections of the fuel cells. And you know what they found, Larry? They found some devices that actually would pop the outer fuel cell open to hold a little more fuel. One of the drivers that did not, and I repeat, did not have that device was Harry Gant. So, you know, Harry's been playing it kind of close to the vest all day, but if he goes that far, 118 miles, I'll guarantee you that NASCAR will tear that thing down from nose to tail.
I'm sure about that.
Harry Gant from Taylorsville, North Carolina, in the Skoll Bandit Kmart Chevrolet. He is 6th in the point standings right now, and last year finished in 2nd position in the point standings. Right now, we go back and pick up on this battle for 4th spot, Jeff Bodine and Kyle Petty. Kyle Petty appears to perhaps have a little bit of handling problem, as that car is a little bit loose at times in the corners.
Well, of course, he, we think, is among those who plans on stopping one more time. They'll have one more chance to get that chassis back to where they want it. Look at Jeff and Kyle way down low. That's kind of unusual at this stage of a race here in Michigan. I don't know if it's experimentation or what, but it's pretty unlikely to see among the leaders running down there in the bottom.
The lead continues to be held by Bill Elliott from Dawsonville, Georgia, in the number 9 Coors Melling Ford. 158 laps completed. We'll be back with more in just a moment. crash at Michigan International. Not a serious one, but Rick Baldwin in car number 04, the Schlitz Chrysler, had contact with the barrier up in corner number 2, and there is his slide up to the wall and contact.
Well, here's the racer who crashed so hard at the Rockingham Speedway earlier, and the entire city, the business community of Corpus Christi, Texas, came to his aid and contributed money to his project to get him back in the race. He plans on running a full season in 1986, and he's in the middle of looking for some sponsorship for next year, but Corpus Christi seems to be in the running.
Now, Larry, the whole strategy is changed, and no longer is Harry Gant in such a good position, because here is Bill Elliott in the pit, so is Darrell Waltrip, so is Neil Bonnet, Jeff Bodine is in, Kyle Petty is in, and now everybody with 39 laps to go can go the distance without having to stop.
In a way, I hate to see it in some respect. It's kind of a shame, because it was really building some drama, and this really is an equalizer, whereas before strategy had games that really played into this thing, and some of the moves that you would make in the early part of the season, early part of the race, had really helped.
Well, coming into the pit area, Dale Earnhardt spun and now is trying to get his car straightened around down here. Must have come in too hot and spun the car around. Now he's righted, however. It headed in the right direction, and the crew goes to work changing tires on the left side of the car.
Yeah, it's been a long day for the one tough customer. He's a good racer, Bob. I got to tell you, I like Earnhardt because he's a no-nonsense type guy. He doesn't seem to be in racing for any other reason, just to go fast and to be a good race driver. And he's very intense at what he does, and he can be very good.
It's been a long afternoon for Dale, and as you can see, the result of that accident earlier in the contest that he was involved in down the backstretch has caused the front end of that car to virtually be gone, and still Dale continues in the contest. Now a whole bunch of cars coming in for pit stops, including Dick Trickle, Eddie Bierschwale, Mike Alexander, Buddy Baker, Lake Speed, Bobby Hillen, Terry Labonte, and others, including Mike Waltrip. Now, here is Buddy Baker in car number 88, who's in for a stop. Buddy, of course, from the Charlotte, North Carolina area in that Bullfrog liquid wrench Oldsmobile.
Bob, just a couple, 3 pit stalls ahead of where Buddy is leaving from right now. Right about there is where Earnhardt had his problem. And by the way, the initial report is that Earnhardt made contact with Jeff Bodine during that incident.
Buddy Baker, though, going back out onto the racetrack. Right ahead of him is Terry Labonte. We're yellow because of an accident over in turn number 2 involving Rick Baldwin as he backed that car into the wall. And the track crews are down there in the first and second turn areas, putting down some oil dries. It's very possible that Baldwin's engine let go and caused his spin.
As clever as the Elliots have been this year, I'll tell you, this pit stop really could be the bearer of bad tidings for the rest of the people in this field. This gives them an opportunity to take a close examination at that race car and maybe solve the problems.
Dave Marcus from Skyland, North Carolina in car number 71, the AEL Rentals Chevrolet, and we hear so much about research and development. We have the Dyguard R&D car here today, driven by Dick Trickle. Well, here's another aspect of R&D from Jack Arute.
These leather wingtips are probably the most famous racing shoes in all of Winston Cup Grand National Racing. They've been on the feet of Dave Marcus as he scored over $1 million in career earnings. But we've heard a lot of talk about research and development lately, and Dave Marcus has now done some R&D of his own. The wingtips are off, and new special racing shoes are on. What about it, Dave? Kind of interesting that you've forsaken the wingtips, at least in practice.
Well, Jackie, it's like you say, we are just testing them. Some people come the other day and said, would you try these shoes? Give them a try. I said, well, I really don't want to make a commitment to you. I don't want to say that I'll race them. Well, why not? I said, well, you know, I just really don't know what they'll do. And, of course, you know, the floorboards in these Grand National cars are very hot.
Well, let's take a look at these shoes specifically and why you've fallen in love with them so much, about leather wingtips and race cars.
Well, when I first came down to run Grand National cars, I had a lot of trouble with the floorboards burning my feet. So I talked to David Pearson at the time, and David said, well, it's really simple. He said, I just wear shoes that are leather soled. So at that particular time, I had a pair of wingtips. I was using them for dress shoes. So that weekend, I decided to use them and give them a try, and they've done a great job, and I have been wearing wingtips ever since.
Well, this, by the way, is the second set of wingtips that Dave Marcus has used in his career. The first set that carried him to over $1 million, they're bronzed and hanging up on the wall as a trophy.
Every once in a while, we run across a story that really gets to the soul of racing.
Dave is in 9th place right now and forming into a 2 abreast lineup for a restart here, but it'll be a couple of more laps. There's Dave Marcus in 9th position. Yellow remains out, 163 laps completed. We'll take this break and be back with more of the Champion Spark Plug 400.
Pit stop may well determine the outcome of this race. Bill Elliott came in at about the same time as Darrell Waltrip. They both took on 2 tires. Waltrip took on outside, Elliott took on inside. But Elliott left far before Darrell Waltrip did. The problem was a bulky right front. It finally took 3 crew members to get the right front tire changed on Waltrip's car. It was a slow enough pit stop that Waltrip went from 2nd to 5th in one few seconds.
He did indeed. He's now shown in 5th position as Bodine, Gant, and Kyle Petty have all moved in between Bill Elliott and Darrell Waltrip. Well, there is a good look at Darrell, who's in 5th position. Now, we mentioned that Dale Earnhardt spun here in the pit area as he came in, and the reason for that was contact with Jeff Bodine. Let's try to talk to Jeff about that on the radio.
Jeff, this is Larry Newber again. Kind of a close call down in the pit during that last stop, eh?
It gets real close in the pit area sometimes closer than it does on a racetrack. Dale Earnhardt was pulling into his pit, and I was pulling out of mine, and our paths crossed and turned him around. I'm glad nobody got hurt in there. It was a pretty good job of parallel parking by Dale.
He missed everybody, but you guys definitely touched, though, eh, Jeff?
Yeah, we touched. It does get real close to the pit. It's very dangerous. The pit crews, the tire changers, Jackman, they deserve a lot of credit for being enough guts, I guess you would call it, to run out there and change tires for us. We try to be as careful as we can, but sometimes you can't avoid those accidents.
Well, this should be it, so good luck to the end, okay?
Thanks.
And we'll also try to talk to Benny Parsons here during this yellow flag. Benny, this is Bob up in the booth again. We show you in 6th position, a lap down, but you're the first car that's a lap down, right behind the pace car. How are things going?
Well, we've broken right now. That's going to take us last 75 miles an hour.
Well, the signal is not real good from the Benny Parsons car, so we will continue to watch the progress of Benny Parsons out there. Let's go down to the pit area for another report.
This is Jack Arute with Junior Johnson. Junior, let's follow up on that last pit stop. Dick Bergeron reported that there was a lot of time taken to change the right side tire. Are you concerned that that may have cost you some valuable time on the racetrack?
Well, we're concerned, but Jackie, with the first set of tires we had on the left rear tire, growed to 90 inches, and the next ones hasn't grown but 89 inches, so we're about an inch short on bite, and we got to get it back somewhere, so we just stuck it in the right front.
And that's why it was so tough to get that tire up in the wheel well?
Well, what we was doing was screwing the jack screw down to get the bite in it. Then, of course, we had to do that first before we put the tire on there. It was just a normal pit stop under them conditions.
Well, it'll be one more lap before they drop the green, and then we'll find out if the gamble by the Johnson-Budweiser crew pays dividends or not.
Junior Johnson, who has 2 cars running in the top 5 at this point. Neil Bonnet is 2nd, and Darrell Waltrip 5th right now.
Of course, the tires are all supposed to be predictable, but this has become such a fine science that obviously as the tires heat up, they all grow a little bit, and you never really know exactly how large they're going to expand, and you have to be very careful and pay a lot of attention to making some good predictions about the growth of tires.
Let's go down to Dick, who's in the Bill Elliott pit, to learn what their strategy is for the final 32 laps.
Ernie, how's your strategy going to run for the end of the race?
It's basically like everywhere, run as hard as you can go.
Have you been running as hard as you can go all day, or have you been holding back at all?
No, we've been running pretty hard. The car's been off and on. A little accident at the first of the race kind of messed up the front end on the car.
And it's just, you know, the car, we've been having to adjust it to make it right, and we've been trying to do it with tire staggered, and we hope we're right.
Do you think you're right at this point? Are you confident?
I'm not confident about it. You know, I mean, you just, you know, whenever something like this arises, you just do the best job you can do, and you hope it's good enough. And, you know, that's what we're hoping for right now.
The motor solid? The motor all right?
Yeah, motor's fine. Has been.
Ernie Elliott says they're going to make a run for the checkered flag as hard as they can go.
All right, we are about to come off our 5th yellow caution period of the afternoon, and this has been our longest caution period. This has taken 8 laps, but now the pace car pulls off, and Harold Kinder displays the green flag, and we are back to racing at lap number 168. 32 more laps to go. Bill Elliott from Dawsonville, Georgia, the leader. Neil Bonnet from Bessemer, Alabama, in 2nd position in the Chevrolet. Right now it's Ford leading, Chevy 2nd, and then Harry Gantz, number 33 Chevy, in 3rd place.
Usually there are no surprises after a late pit stop, but every once in a while somebody finds something, and it's just startling. Remember a couple years ago at Richmond, and Tim Richmond just got a perfect set of tires. Ricky Reddick dominated the race. Richmond went out and won the race with seeming ease. Sometimes it's like Nadia Comaneci on the balance beam. You just pick the right combo.
Cars traveling at about 160 miles an hour as they flash by our camera position located at the entrance to the Tri-Oval. Harry Gant runs 3rd. Darrell Waltrip is 4th, and Kyle Petty is in 5th position as they battle now for 2nd as Harry Gant moves into 2nd position around to the inside of Neil Bonnet.
Boy, Elliott is beginning to look strong as he does so many races. You wonder how long this domination can last. I mentioned earlier, there's so much technology, so much money, so much research that goes into Grand National racing, yet Bill Elliott continues to just run up front and run away.
In 6th spot, Kyle Petty hanging right in there in the Wood Brothers Ford. Let's go down to the pit area and Jackaroo.
Well, Kyle Petty may have gambled and lost. On that last pit stop, in lieu of making major stagger changes, they adjusted on the weight over the right front tire. They jacked a little more weight to it in hopes that they would stop their handling problems, which the car was being very, very loose. But it looks like he's going backwards instead of going forwards on the drop of the green flag.
He has indeed fallen back a couple of positions, now running in 6th spot. It's a good battle up front for 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. Gant moves to the high side of Neil Bonnet now, looking for 3rd spot. Darrell Waltrip has 2nd here in front of Bonnet and Gant. There is Waltrip in 2nd position, dropping to the low side of the racetrack. They cross the stripe once again and complete lap 171. Waltrip 2nd, then battling for 3rd position. Harry Gant on the high side of the racetrack, and Neil Bonnet to the low side. Meanwhile, Jeff Bodine and Kyle Petty battle for position behind these drivers.
Spring ratings are kind of a baseline in Grand National cars. As far as the right front goes here in Michigan, the springs are rated at about 1,250 pounds. By the way, the pleasure car home may be rated about 500. Then the weight jack, you can add or detract from that amount of pressure that goes to the right front of the race car. By putting weight into it, you're trying to make that car bite down on the racetrack a little harder. Keep it from wanting to go straight at the end of the straightaway.
4th, 5th, and 6th position here. Now Kyle Petty tries to make a move around Benny Parsons, who is not on the lead lap, and Kyle does go to the inside and pass Benny. Well, Dick Bergman is down in the pit area with Tim Brewer. Dick?
And this is Neil Bonnet's crew chief. And Tim, how are you going to play it from here? What you going to do?
Basically try to win our class. The Ford he's got is out of class right now. You know, we have a good lap, 45.60. He goes down around 45.10. So, you know, when he gets ready to check out, he goes on. So, you know, I guess Neil and Darrell and Gant and some of the other guys, I guess they'll just race for 2nd place, look like today.
As one of the sharper crew chiefs, you must have some theories about what is making Elliott so quick. What do you think?
Well, I hope the hell to see legal. I hate thinking beating is this bad legal.
Well, I think that's just an example of the frustration that many crew chiefs are feeling right now because of the Bill Elliott dominance. And I think the story as we watch this battle for second position among several cars is the fact that Bill Elliott has indeed stretched out his lead. It's now already up to about a half a straightaway as they go down the backstretch.
Talking about illegal, of course, Tim was the crew chief of one of the teams that was embroiled in that controversial disqualification of 3 cars after qualifying at Pocono. Darrell Waltrip, Neil Bonnet, and Jeff Bodine were all disqualified. Darrell and Neil about 2 weeks after the incident, but of course Tim very much in the middle of that storm.
A 3 abreast formation there in the 4th corner as Bodine and Darrell Waltrip and Harry Gant are battling for position. Right behind them, Kyle Petty and Neil Bonnet, who are also all on the lead lap. And this is a contest for second spot.
You know, Tim was obviously a little tongue-in-cheek during that interview, but he was very accurate. This is a tremendous race, and it is first in class. It's everybody behind Bill Elliott. Bill Elliott, as we're watching this battle for second, third, fourth, and so on, is about 20, 30 cars ahead and seemingly streaking away. There he is coming around turn 3, turn 4, the 18-degree banking, and there's everybody else.
Now we'll get a watch on Bill Elliott here and see exactly how much of a lead he does have. He crosses the line. Now here comes Jeff Bodine in second. It's just about a 4-second advantage for Bill Elliott, and he has built that up since we went green coming off of the caution period because of the Rick Baldwin accident. So Bill Elliott does appear to be on his way to his 9th victory of 1985 here at Michigan.
Well, in years past here, we have seen that the banking around here is just enough to create a draft that really works well, but there haven't been any real long straightaways like at Pocono that kind of break the chain. That's the reason for all the lead changes, I think, that have occurred here at Michigan in past years. But Bill Elliott is really putting an end to that. But you wonder, anything can happen. As Yogi Berra once said, it ain't over till it's over, and that's certainly true in automobile racing. There are so many things that can occur.
Boy, those guys get so close to each other as they battle for position off of the 4th corner. Gant and Bodine and Petty. Bodine and Petty almost have a meeting there going into corner number 1. Tight, exciting racing here in Michigan.
You really have to have a lot of confidence with the people who are around you, because it looks easy as we watch on television. Everything is almost poetic. It flows across your screen from right to left, and little subtle moves or apparently subtle moves are made from this distance. But if you're inside the race car, you can see them fighting that wheel, sawing back and forth, and it happens very quickly. These guys are just so good at it that the image that you get from afar makes it look easy.
Elliott, followed by Darrell Waltrip, and then this battle. Kyle Petty, Jeff Bodine, and Harry Gant. Bill Elliott's wins this year have come at Daytona, at Atlanta, at North Wilkesboro, also at Talladega, Dover, Pocono, Michigan, and again at Pocono. He has won 2 races at Pocono this year.
Jackson, Michigan has been Bill Elliott's adopted hometown since his debut in Grand National Stock Car Racing. In the beginning, if there was one place that Elliott would really have wanted to win more than any place else, and I guess it would still hold true today, it would be here, because the city of Jackson, Michigan, the people, the business community have really responded to this driver. In the early parts of his career, when he was looking for help, they were right there. That's how Harry Melling got involved.
Neil Bonnet comes into the pit area, and he has had some contact with the wall. It's pretty obvious. You can see the body work rubbing against the right front tire, and there's also quite a bit of scraping damage done to the right side bodywork.
That's one of the things that can happen. He may have been carrying the car just a little bit. You never know. It's kind of uncommon for a driver at this level to make a mistake that is 100% all his. He may have been carrying the car just a little bit too much. He wanted to finish first in class, as his crew chief said, looking for second. He was at the tail of that group that was going at him for second position, and he went in just a little too hard.
Now we only have 5 cars on the lead lap as Neil goes down a lap. He's been in now for just about 36 seconds. And a car scraping the wall in turn 4 is Jeff Bodine. No, it is not Jeff Bodine. It is the number 49 car of Trevor Boyes. It looked like Jeff Bodine's yellow, but it was not. It's Trevor Boyes who scraped the wall up in turn Number 3 comes into the pits, pulls behind the wall, and it does not bring out a yellow.
He really did a good job because something obviously went wrong underneath the hood. He did touch the wall. We saw the dirt and debris fly, but he just barely touched it because you can almost see the skid marks inside.
Trevor Boyes is the driver from Calgary, Alberta, driving the Cleaner Hands Formula Chevrolet this weekend.
There's a guy who is always anywhere from 3 to 4,500 miles away from home to go Grand National stock car racing. That is dedication.
As you can see, Jeff Bodine is still very much in this race, as he is still hooked up with Darrell Waltrip and Harry Gant and Kyle Petty as they contest 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Well, for Travis Carter, this has been a shift in emphasis. Earlier, they were talking about fuel economy. Now all the bets are off in regards to that. And Travis has got to go fast, faster than everybody else, including Elliott, if he can catch him.
While Bill Elliott has the lead, Darrell Waltrip is running in 2nd position. And the question that we asked Darrell earlier in the weekend, where exactly he wants to be in the late stages of this race.
Where do you want to be for the last 5 laps?
Well, Michigan is a track that, like so many nowadays, used to be you'd want to be second. And, you know, I know for a number of years, every time I'd win a race, I'd win it from the front. And everybody say, man, you can't do that. You got to be in the 2nd position in slingshot, you know. So it depends on who you're racing, and it depends on how you feel at that time. Sometimes you got a fast car and you just lay back. Don't take a chance and just slingshot the guy going down the back straightaway and hold him off to the start-finish line. But if your car's not handling real well, you know, I'd just soon to be in the front. That guy, when you're in the front, the guy running second's got to guess what you're going to do. And you have the right of way. You know, we've seen it in other races. Pocono, for instance. The leader comes off the turn, everybody goes low, and everybody goes high, and everybody goes here, and everybody goes there. That's your option. You're the leader, and if you go low, that don't mean that guy behind you's got to go low, but he probably will. So that's part of the race, and you just got to sit there when you're second and second guess. I think I'd just soon to be in the front.
Darrell is not in front right now. He trails Bill Elliott by about 4 seconds at this point. Now, we move back into the field and see the current leader in rookie point standings, Ken Schrader, ahead of last year's Rookie of the Year on the Winston Cup Trail, Rusty Wallace.
Well, in talking with Schrader earlier this week, guys, driving number 90 right now, he said he's looking forward to this coming week because he classified it, and Rusty Wallace showing us a little bit of side bite there. Kenny classified this coming week as his Crusher week. What he means by that is he is going to run open-wheel cars because it's a Grand National weekend off next Wednesday, Friday, Saturday afternoon, Saturday night, Sunday afternoon, and Sunday night. Those are all individual races that Schrader plans on running this week.
As we indicated, Ken is the leader in rookie point standings, but he doesn't have all that much of a lead over Eddie Birschwale, who has accumulated 162 points toward the rookie honors, and Don Hume is the other driver in the competition for Rookie of the Year. He has 73, and Don is not competing here this weekend.
Well, Schrader's going to win it, Bob. I think that all the resources that are available to him, he should be a shoo-in, but he's got to be careful and pay attention to Birschwale.
Ken Schrader from Fenton, Missouri, drives the number 90 Ultra Seal Ford. He started this race in 24th position. We asked him about getting experience on the Grand National tracks.
How about you as a rookie driver? Do you race differently than, let us say, a Waltrip or a Petty or somebody that's got years under his belt?
Yes, I do. You know, our basic thing this year is to get some experience and try to stay out of trouble. And, you know, naturally everybody's trying to stay out of trouble, but if you pay a little bit more attention to it, you go a little slower. But by staying out of trouble and getting the extra laps, I feel it's helping us in our rookie year.
Ken Schrader, former open-wheel driver in the Midwest. As a matter of fact, he still does that on occasion when he isn't running the Grand National circuit. Ken Schrader. Well, the interval now between first and second position has opened up to over 6 seconds as Bill Elliott continues to stretch out the lead a little bit over the second place of Darrell Waltrip. Eddie Birschwale is the driver of car number 6, and he is the second place in the point standings, in rookie point standings on the Winston Cup Trail right now. Eddie hails from San Antonio, Texas, drives the U.S. Racing Chevrolet. There he is crossing the line right now.
Well,
Well, he qualified 34th, this second-place rookie point-standings person did this weekend. By the way, some of the guys who were here who did not qualify: Craig Spetman, Ed Cooper, Don Paul, whose father was a former super modified driver, former midget driver Johnny Coy Jr., Billy Carroll trying to make his rookie debut, Jerry Holden, and Morris Randall from Charlotte, Michigan, just up the road, among those who were here but failed to qualify this weekend at Michigan.
There is Eddie Bierschwale on the backstretch here at Michigan. Eddie from San Antonio, Texas, as we indicated. There's the leader once again, Bill Elliott. He completes lap number 187. So we have 13 more laps to go. We'll take a break now and be back for the finish of this event. Newber, Dick Berggren, and Jack Arute back at Michigan International Speedway for the Champion Spark Plug 400, which is winding down. Now less than 12 laps to go, and Bill Elliott has a 6-second lead over Darrell Waltrip. Running third is Harry Gant, fourth is Jeff Bodine, and fifth is Kyle Petty. But back in the pack, there are some drivers that are really going at it for position. Among them, the number 10 Research and Development Dyguard car, being driven this weekend by Dick Trickle. Behind him is Buddy Baker. In front of Dick Trickle is Dale Earnhardt, but he is not battling for position. Well, let's go down to Gary Nelson, who is the crew chief on this experimental car number 10, and find out if they've learned anything this afternoon.
Gary, what sorts of experiments have you tried this afternoon, and what have you learned from them?
Well, we've learned an awful lot. You know, we came here with a Pontiac. It's the first time we've ever run a Pontiac. The idea of our testing here was to try and learn something about the different body styles in competition against the other cars. We've learned an awful lot. I think we can call it the test a success. You know, it wasn't as successful as we were at Daytona when we ran with Greg Saxon, the R&D car. But I think we're pretty happy with overall what we've learned. Dick Trickle's doing a fine job. We can call this a success. I wish that Greg could have won in the Buick number 77, but this is all geared to make Greg's car run better, and I think we will in the future.
Do you think we're going to start seeing more R&D teams in Grand National Racing?
Well, I don't know. It's awful expensive. You know, we've done a lot of testing on weekdays that a lot of people don't know about. Yeah, it's myself and two other people working pretty much full-time trying to get all these ideas and technology onto the cars. It's pretty expensive, and you'd have to have a good car owner to be able to afford it.
Expensive it is. It's $50,000 to bring this R&D car to this racetrack today only.
Dick Trickle running in 9th position, but the disappointment at this moment on the racetrack is Jeff Bodine, who's off the pace, low on the track in turn 3.
Well, we told you earlier that here's a team that has shown a lot of strength on all different types of racetracks in 1985. They've run up front many races, but disappointment has often befallen them. They showed a great deal of speed. They were a point leader earlier this year after finishing second at Atlanta. Actually, the 4th race of the year, they led points. He's had a couple of 4th place finishes at second at Atlanta. They were second at Richmond also, 3rd at Martinsville. But today has turned out to not, again, be a Jeff Bodine day.
As you can see, he is currently 4th in the Grand National point standings. Harry Hyde and the crew raised the hood on that car, and it looks like it's all over for Jeff Bodine. Bill Elliott, though, continues to show the way in this race, with the race speed now up to 136.70 miles an hour. Well, Dick Trickle was running in 9th spot just a moment ago, but he's been passed by a few cars. Among them, Mike Alexander, also Buddy Arrington, Terry Labonte, and Buddy Baker.
Dale Earnhardt giving everybody room, but really throwing caution to the wind, because you would expect that car being really torn up like that aerodynamically, he just couldn't run fast. But like we saw Mike Mosley do a few years ago in an Indianapolis car, Dale Earnhardt is astounding the experts. Mike Alexander setting the pace here. He's a very interesting case, Bob, because he got that ride just this past week. It's something he's been working on, and in an era where almost everybody has to put up some money or free tires or come along with something financial to help themselves get a ride, particularly at this level Grand National ride. Mike Alexander told me earlier today in the pit area that not one red cent has exchanged hands. They wanted him, they called him, they got him, they demanded no money, and Mike has come here and given it a good ride today.
And a nice young man, too, from Franklin, Tennessee, in the Sadler Racing Racing Chevrolet. Mike Alexander started the race in 13th position and is now up in the top 10.
He's a guy who's won a lot of races on short tracks. He was the Winston Racing National Champion a couple years ago. He was also the NASCAR Grand American Champion in 1984. So he's been able to cram in a lot of racing experience in the short. And Earnhardt getting sideways and going into a spin there between turns 3 and 4, going down to the bottom and getting down into the grass.
Almost collecting Terry Labonte and Buddy Baker also, but they managed to go high on the racetrack and stay out of trouble. Dale does a half spin, brings it to the inside of the racetrack, keeps going, and there'll be no yellow displayed.
Well, I do believe that there was a case of the aerodynamics not catching him. He went into a slide, and like normal, good, solid aerodynamics would have helped push that car back down into the racetrack. There was nothing there to assist Dale as far as the steering of the race car goes. And I believe that aerodynamics or lack thereof contributed to that little longer slide than normal.
All of this occurring with just a few more laps to go in the race. Here's what happened as
he moves down on the inside of Trickle. He's trying to hold off Trickle. He's challenging with Trickle.
There may have been some contact, but I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Labonte going by, Buddy Baker go. Now there goes Dale spinning around and right in front of Buddy Arrington as Buddy looks down to the left and puts his foot down on the throttle and gets out of that trouble.
Let's replay it again and see if we can detect any contact whatsoever between Earnhardt. No, definitely not.
No, he
was behind him and lower on the racetrack.
And everybody missed him. Everybody really does a good job in this case.
So Earnhardt continues to motor around, and yeah, some smoke seen from Neil Bonnet's car. Neil, of course, was up in the top 5, but lost a lap when he made a pit stop a while ago because of brushing the wall. And now 4 cars remain on the lead lap with less than 4 laps to go. In 5th position, a lap down, is Benny Parsons. So Dale Earnhardt's spin does not bring out the yellow. We continue to go under green, and Bill Elliott continues to lead this Champions Spark Plug 400 here at Michigan. There is Darrell Waltrip, who is in 2nd spot. Harry Gant is in 3rd, and Kyle Petty 4th. Those 4 cars on the lead lap.
Boy, in any other season, this would be just a typical Darrell Waltrip dominated year, wouldn't it? But because of that guy right there, no way in 1985.
He has less than 2 laps to go now, and victory number 9 will be his, and his 3rd win at Michigan. At Michigan. He won the Miller 500, which is the early race that's held here every year in 1984, and he won the race earlier this year here at Michigan. So he's going for his 3rd victory, and 2 more laps to go now. 198 laps completed. The white flag will come out next time around.
A long time ago, Bill Elliott said that if there was any place on the trail that he would like to win, it would probably be here. And he has really developed a habit in 1984 and 1985 of winning at Michigan. This is like the old Junior Johnson cars in the short track, say, at North Wilkesboro. You go down there, it's an automatic win for Junior Johnson. You come up to Michigan, and it's an automatic win, or so it seems, for Bill Elliott.
Elliott now in turn number 4. And we have Mike Waltrip's car letting go out there on the backstretch into turn number 3. Mike Waltrip almost completes the distance, but not quite as the engine lets go on that car. The white flag comes out. Bill Elliott is on his last lap on this 2-mile tri-oval here at Michigan. He doesn't have very much activity in front of him. It should be easy going for him here on this last lap off of corner number 2 now, and setting the car into the backstretch. Elliott from Dawsonville, Georgia, 29 years of age. And Kyle Petty also has an engine let go. Mike Waltrip and Kyle Petty with engine problems here on the last lap of the race. Meanwhile, Bill Elliott keeps the car in the middle of the racetrack, not stretching it by any means, not taking a chance of anything going wrong. Bill Elliott signals that he accepts the checkered flag, and Bill Elliott has won the Michigan Champion Spark Plug 400, his 9th win of 1985.
his 9th out of 18 total starts. Now, he has yet to win on a short track, but he's been so dominant on the super speedways. There's Darrell Waltrip, who finished 2nd in today's race. Elliott has been so dominant in the super speedways. Who needs to win on the short tracks?
Waltrip finishes 2nd. Harry Gant finishes in 3rd position. And I'm not sure whether or not Kyle Petty will be credited with 4th because his engine let go on the last lap of the race, and if he did not cross the line, he's coming out of turn number 4 right now. Benny Parsons might finish in 4th position, although Benny was a lap down. So Bill Elliott wins and will be coming into victory lane, where we will talk with him in just a moment as the Champion Sparkplug 400 is over.
We're here in victory lane where Bill Elliott has scored his 9th victory of 18 races. Bill, congratulations.
I'll tell you what, the first of the race, I was beginning to wonder if I was going to make it to the end of the race.
Was a squeeze play there early on. What went through your mind?
I was hoping it didn't hurt the car. You know, I don't know what they were trying to do, especially as early in the race it was. You know, we just kept on, you know, the Coors Mellon crew just kept on going. I'll tell you what else can I say?
In your wildest dreams, did you ever think you'd be batting 500 coming to this race?
There ain't no way. You know, I think that says a lot for how hard all the crew works and how hard Ernie does on the engines and everything. And, you know, without Coors and without Melling and without Ford behind us, there ain't no way we could do it.
Well, that's the story from a very jubilant victory lane. Bill Elliott's about to get out of the car and accept the accolades of some 70,000 people here today.
And our congratulations from the booth. Our Winner's Circle interview has been brought to you by Goodyear. Goodyear tires and Goodyear service for more good years in your car. We'll be back with some closing comments from Michigan International Speedway in just a moment, where Bill Elliott has won the Champion Sparkplug 400. We had 7 leaders and 15 lead changes. Bill Elliott wins again at an average of 137.43.
En route to perhaps a $2 million plus season.
The Champion Sparkplug 400 has been brought to you by Skull Bandits, tobacco in a neat little pouch. It's a little pouch of tobacco plus